Welcome everyone to Comics from the Multiverse, episode 486. I am Peter, and joining me as always is Matt.
Hey, what is up?
I'm nothing's up. Why are you asking? Why are you so curious?
You know, it's just a common greeting I like to use, you know? That's all.
Yes, welcome everyone. This is the DC Comics podcast. We get together and talk about the DC books we read this week. Coming up on today's show, we have DC KO Wonder Woman vs. Lobo, issue 1. We have Absolute Batman 15, Action Comics 1093, Green Lantern Corps issue 11, Batman and Robin 28. Matt read Supergirl issue 8. We'll also have Batman Gotham by Gaslight, A League for Justice issue 6. And we'll be catching up on DC KO Knightfight issue 2, which was the Patreon vote choice for the month. And then I also have a Patreon book. I'll be talking about the next issue of Gideon Falls, which I think is issue 7. Although
Damn, man. You were charging through those.
Yeah, well, I'm doing 2 a month, so I mean, they're, you know.
Yeah, I know. But just like, I just felt like I blink and you're through the first arc, you know?
That's what it is. Anywho, that is what's coming up on the show today. Plus, we have a trailer we might talk about, because, you know, a new DC movie trailer came out this week, that being Supergirl, so we'll talk about that as well. So, yeah. But anyway, before we get to all that stuff, Matt, how was your week?
It was okay. You know, we're creeping towards the holidays, so getting a little, a little stuff here done, little stuff there done. You know, I was trying to get to the Christmas break, so I have more time to do what I want, which is nothing. I would just love to do nothing.
Nothing's good. Nothing's underrated, I think. Sometimes it's nice to just be bored a little bit with nothing to do. It's nice sometimes. Yeah, I mean, this week was the Game Awards week, so I watched that on Thursday. It was mediocre for me for reveals, although the game that I really liked won most of the awards, so it was good on that front.
Which was?
Clear Obscure Expedition 33.
Gotcha.
Which you've never heard of. I can tell by the look in your face. You're confused by these words and deeds.
The most thing that I know that came out of the Game Awards was the Street Fighter trailer, which...
that was a thing, yes.
That was a thing that I watched. So, you know.
Yes, I have nothing much to say about the reveals per se. If you're a Star Wars fan who's into video games, you got a couple of big things, but I didn't get a whole lot specifically aimed at me for the most part. So, hey, that's what it is. But there was that. I did try out Letterboxd Video Rental Store this week because that launched.
Oh.
Watched Tiger on the Beat, which is a Hong Kong buddy cop movie. It was pretty good. There's a cool chainsaw fight near the end.
So how does that work? Do you have to go through their site? Is it on the app?
Yeah, well, so it depends what device you're using technically, but on the Apple TV, I downloaded the Letterboxd app. Now, I did to initiate being able to watch stuff on there. I had to do it on my web browser first, just so that because it can actually, I think they use Vimeo technically as the video player, so you have to connect it to Vimeo on the website. But once that was done, I just rented it on the website and then went to my Apple TV on my TV and just watched it from there. It works like any other rentals. You got 30 days to start it. You got 48 hours. Once you've started it, you can watch it as much as you want for 48 hours, and then it disappears. But
goes away.
There's a couple of movies that are like just out of the festivals, and those are like $20 rentals. So that's the premium kind of pricing. But the rest of the what they call the lost and found kind of like gems from the past, those vary between like $5 and $10 for rentals. I mean, in the UK there were either $3.50 or £5 each. I think it's a little bit worse than the US. I think the one I watched was a $10 rental in the US, but it was only £5 for me. So it varies region to region and all that. But yeah, that was cool. It worked. It was it was 4K. Yeah. It was good quality, so there was no complaints on the actual streaming side of it.
I got an email that had launched, and I was like, I don't want to watch stuff on my phone, but you know,
because
I assumed it was going to be through the app, right? And I was like, well, I don't have an app because I do have an Apple TV device, right? Like the actual box.
Yeah, you still have the app on that.
Yeah, and so I did not know I could do that. So I'm gonna take a look at that. I mean, not that I need to. I have enough rental services, But if there's something on there, it might be good to have.
Well, I think the reason why it's appealing is that it's like curated stuff of like, hey, this is interesting. That's hard to find. Like it's not available in all the other places, which is why you might want to check it out while it's here. So there's another couple of movies there that I do want to have a look at some point soon. So I don't know how often they're going to add more to it. I assume monthly, but we'll find out, I guess.
Yeah.
So I guess that was my interesting bit of the week was checking that out in the Game Awards. But otherwise, busy.
Nice.
Getting stuff done.
Real quick, it is like, holiday movie season.
Yeah.
Pete, have you ever seen Santa's Sleigh?
Starring one Bill Goldberg? Yes, I have.
Yes. Okay. I watched that last week after the show. I could have literally done anything else.
I mean, it's not good, but it's also nowhere near from the worst. So I think that reaction tells me you've not watched the true terrible Christmas horror movies, because there is much worse that you can find.
Yes, it's what I've been told. I had a friend get upset with me because I don't like trauma, despite having very similar interests. And I was just like, yeah, man, I was pretty sheltered by movies. Like I didn't even get into horror stuff until late in the game. So trauma was like a no-go. Yeah. So I guess if you're into that, To
put it in perspective, we're Santa's Sleigh, I think, is watchable and has a couple of decent moments. I gave that a 5 out of 10. That was my rating of Santa's Sleigh.
Gotcha.
I don't know if you think that's too high or too low, but that was where I landed.
I mean, you know how I am with rating things. Yeah. I'm very generous. People would say, hey, give out to me.
Yeah, you'd give it a 7.5, probably.
No. I on the old letterbox, I believe I gave it 1 star and went, well, this is
pretty harsh.
Out of all the evil Santa movies I've seen, this is one of them.
I watched a movie this past week for our upcoming Screams episode called Werewolf Santa. I gave this movie 1 out of 10.
I bet you Tim loved it. You don't tell me. Don't step on it. This seems like a Tim movie, Werewolf Santa. In fact, it feels like Werewolf Santa would be one of his nicknames.
I mean,
so
it was terrible. It was bottom of the barrel, and you'd be praying for Santa's Sleigh watching that, and you'd be saying, I rated that too low because going from like a 1 to a half star is not enough of a gap to illustrate the quality jump between these two movies.
So you're telling me to what was it called? Recalibrate my rating system. I got to check out Werewolf Santa. You think you know bad.
That's a good point. Yeah, you should watch one true 1 out of 10 just so you've got like a gauge. You know what the extreme ends are, and you can gauge them in between accordingly. That's the problem. You've not seen a true 1 out of 10 yet. You may think you have, but you haven't.
No, the new Silent Night, Deadly Night's out, starring Rowan Campbell. I need to go see that as soon as possible because I do quite like the first two, the originals.
Looking forward to checking out as well. Yes. Have you not seen 3, 4, and 5, Matt? Are you not a proper Silent Night? I have not seen 3, 4, and 5. No?
So just again, the only reason I watched 2 is because you told me that's where Garbage Day comes from.
Oh yeah, I mean half of it's just replaying the first movie again, but the half of it that's new is really funny. So it's still worth watching as a bad movie.
Yes, up there with the Slumber Party Massacre 2, where you're just like,
oh, that's great.
What the hell? Quite entertaining. And I feel like that was my biggest problem with Santa's Sleigh. It wasn't quite as entertaining as something like that. So, which I was expecting it. Bill Goldberg as Santa, and maybe my expectations are too high for something sillier. But But yes, it's that time. I'm trying to get caught up on, not caught up because we watch the same things, right? Like I watch National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation like 3 or 4 times. Try to work in Die Hard. Very, very few new Christmas movies get added.
I'll tell you one to watch, and it's available on like a million services, a lot of them free. It's a Spanish movie called The Day of the Beast. And it's about a priest who's trying to find out will the Antichrist is going to be born on Christmas Eve. And he believes that to do this, he has to get in good with the eyes of Satan. So he's running around doing like just little evil things as much as he can. It's kind of like a part horror, part dark comedy, a little bit of action, kind of a mishmash of genres. But I was entertained by it. I thought it was well worth a watch. So
gotcha. I will check that out.
New Christmas movie to watch. There you go. Day of the Beast.
Yes. Sweet.
From
Day of the Beast. Got that down. Fun. I do like that premise though too. I also like a new premise.
Oh yeah.
I don't want just like Die Hard in a blank, right?
I mean, I'll take a million movies that just Die Hard in a blank as long as they're halfway decent.
Correct, but for adding something new to watch during the Christmas season, let's. I do like priests doing bad things to try to find the Antichrist.
Yes,
that is a premise.
Yes, absolutely, and also make sure you watch Terrifier 3. It's a new holiday must watch. Of course. Anyway, we'll get into things, everyone. We'll have a look at the Kindle rankings, the list formerly known as the ComiXology Top 10, and I'll see if Matt can guess what number 1 is as of right now on Saturday as we record this show.
All right, so I will say this, and I was going to say this when we get to this issue. I have not felt the palpable anticipation for a comic book like this in a very long time. So if Absolute Batman 15 is not number 1, then I don't know. I don't know what even we're doing.
Your guess is Absolute Batman, issue 15.
Yes.
That is correct. So that is number 1. Number 2 is Transformers. Number 3 is Ultimate Spider-Man. 4 is Wonder Woman versus Lobo. 5 is Ultimate Wolverine. 6 is Aquaman, which is the Aquaman versus Hawkman issue, basically. Number 7 is Unbreakable X-Men. Number 8 is Amazing Spider-Man. Number 9 is Sinister 6. And number 10 is Action Comics. So, I mean, there's 4 DC books, actually, and they're very spread out. It's, 1, 4, 6, and 10. Very, very evenly spread out throughout that top 10. And then looking down for the other DC books, Green Lantern Corps is at 15, Batman and Robin's at 16, the Gaslight book is at 20, Supergirl's at 22. So it definitely feels like a quieter week for DC, and I was noticing actually as I was getting the list of books just sort of written up for the show, I was like, because I always copy it from this same week last month, and I noticed that last month had a Dark Patterns issue, which is now over, and it also had what was the other mini that ended? But there was 2 minis that ended on week 2 last month. So no, just
what the hell was it?
I don't know, I can't remember, but there was another one.
And that's gonna drive me nuts.
There was 2.
Yeah.
So anyway, regardless, it's definitely a quieter week relatively for DC, but not to worry though, because obviously we're going to have a lot of new books launching in the next few months between Vertigo and all the next level stuff. So, but yeah, just a little bit of calm before the storm, which I welcome, especially at this time of year. So that is the Kindle rankings, and we can get into not the books quite yet. We should talk about the one big news thing that happened this week, and that, of course, is the trailer, the first teaser trailer for Supergirl, which is coming out next summer. It was pretty good. I like what I saw. Primarily 2 things stuck out to me. One is I kind of liked recognizing that they're actually doing the plot from Women of Tomorrow, because there's the kids there and she's being kind of a drunken lout. I appreciate that they spent most of the trailer with her not in the outfit, so it felt like a big deal in the last 20-30 seconds when they're like, hey, here she is in the Supergirl outfit. And then I guess the other thing is just the characterization of Kara, and seeing a bit more of her actually be this kind of layabout who's lost things and whatnot. And obviously there's some teases of like showing her backstory and how her experience of losing Krypton went, and it looked like one of the visuals in there, it looked like a city was being bottled, which might be setting things up for the next Superman movie. I couldn't help but notice that. But how did you feel,
Matt? Me neither. No, not to parrot everything you just said, but the fact that we got so much of Women of Tomorrow right there with the basic plot, the true grit of it all, this girl going to look for Kara's help because, she needs her father avenged. It looks like we got a redesign of Krem of the Red Hills, which I think that's fine, right? Make him look more like an alien and, less than what he is in the comics. And we also got Lobo which, you know, for a brief lit, which
The
I am
tease,
wondering how he's going to fit in, considering he's not in Woman of Tomorrow. So
I just assume he's going to be hired by the bad guy to track down the girl or something, or something. I can see easily fitting him into it.
Oh, for sure. Which then also makes me think, you know, I was talking to a friend about this, and he goes, oh man, the trailer made me really hopeful that we might get Comet, you know, but probably not, right? And I said, well, if we don't get Comet and that beat Lobo there, we might get some space dolphins, you know. So there's that for a bit more of the silly zaniness, some more lighthearted. So
yeah, I mean, I'm not going to expect Comet, but I will say this: the world that Gunn's set up with Superman, it doesn't make me think it's not. Like, I don't think it's out of the possibility. And the fact that I even think that, it says something about the world that's already been set up. Because I think in almost any other version of Superman or DCE that we've ever had, I would have said no chance. Not a million years will you see Comet. Yeah. I still don't think we're going to, but I don't think it's a 0% chance. I think there's actually, it's not impossible. So
yeah. No, it's definitely there. If Comet shows up, I'll be very, very happy. Right, but it was just that thing where, you know, the trailer makes you feel like, well, why not? Why can't we have the super horse? You know, it looks like they're doing things. Yeah,
and I think I like that it's, you know, obviously we know that's from the book, but it's like even the trailer's selling what the arc of the movie is going to be. It's going to be Kara does not care about anything. She's lost. She's not giving a shit. And by the end of the story, she's going to care about saving this girl, and she's going to care about doing the right thing, and that's going to be a huge change for her.
Yeah.
That seems to be there up front. So yeah, I don't really have much. You know, I like that the poster they put out this week as well. It says truth, justice, whatever. I thought that's a funny little spin on the old catch line. So
yeah, and she's wearing that big, like, kind of trench coat on the cover, giving her that kind of devil may care vibe more.
Well, that was just the same as the you know, our appearance before from Superman. So it makes sense. So. No, good.
It definitely is, as someone that struggles not to watch Superman every day, because I really want to. This didn't ease that at all. You know, like, I want to pop back into that world. So it feels nice to be excited for a DC movie again. You know, because it was bleak for a minute. So now we're back here, and I can eagerly anticipate things. I think
you can give yourself one more viewing for Christmas, Matt. I think that's okay.
Well, it's definitely happening. I'm off for a good chunk of those 2 weeks, so I will definitely be watching it. In fact, it may be the Christmas Day movie. Who knows?
Oh.
You know, but we also, there was a little, like, a tease of a tease for Lanterns, which, you know, I'm ready for that as well. That came out, I think, Thursday or Friday. Can't remember which of the days.
I don't think I saw that. It was like a poster or like a little...
yeah. No, there was like a little, like a 4 or 5 minute clip that was
5
setting
minutes?
up. It was the guy that's... No, I'm sorry. 4 or 5 seconds.
I was going to say that's more than a little tease.
I'm sorry. Yes. I would say seconds. Maybe 15. 15 at the most. 15 seconds at the most. But it's set up by the guy that's playing John. He's like, are you guys ready for your teaser? And then it goes into Hal and John talking about if John is ready to be a Lantern. And then Hal dips out of this moving car, leaving John in the passenger seat. And as it goes over a hill, it cuts and it says Lanterns. So that trailer should be out somewhat soon. And I saw people about that one too complaining that everything that we've seen is so drab and colorless. And I was like, do you guys not get that when the green does pop, because that's all we've seen thus far, it's going to really pop, you know?
They've not shown off any effect sequences yet. I don't think that's a cause for concern. Don't get me wrong, there is a chance that maybe the final product will be very, like, holding back, and maybe that'll be something we feel at the time. But I don't think basing this on one image and one 10-second clip is not, you know, we're not there yet. Everyone calm down.
No. And I was like, so again, it feels good to be excited about things. Instead of being like, at the worst, I feel like dread means you still care, but being apathetic was the worst. Like the fact that we didn't even see a lot of the last things that have come out.
That's true. Yeah, we just stopped caring. Yeah, that was how I felt.
You know, that's way worse than dreading things. So here, just the eager anticipation, and again, getting Woman Tomorrow, which is one of the.
It's worse in a sense. I'd say it's better in one way, which is at the very least you're kind of free of it. You've kind of like let go in a sense, and I think that there's something to that, but that's about
it. Every so often I think about watching The Flash, and then I come to my senses. You know, like I was like, you know, that completionist in me, that comic book reader is like, you just give it a watch. It's the one you haven't seen. And then
you can't. No,
my body.
You've got Wirral Sata to watch, Matt. You're not allowed to watch The Flash.
Yes. But it's almost like then my body takes over and I was like, no, you're not doing this. It's like my body's protecting my brain, which is good because usually it's the other way around. So
yeah, Matt's homework for next week is to go into Tubi and watch Wirral Sata.
Tubi. I love that Tubi's free. I do because there's no excuse. I can't be like, oh, there's a
trust me.
Paywall.
If you went past the paywall to get to this movie, you would be livid, Matt. You would be livid.
I can't wait to tell my wife that tomorrow we're watching Werewolf Santa. She's gonna be so mad at me, Pete. Oh, I might videotape it.
Oh, wait until she sees just how lacking plot and structure the movie is. Then she'll be really upset.
Well, when we were watching Santa's Sleigh, she looked at me and was like, "Why are we watching this?" I was like, "You could do literally anything else. I'm watching this before I go out. You know, it's my resting movie." You know,
you can leave. It's fine.
Yeah. No one's making you watch Goldberg as Santa, honey. You know. So yeah, I should have taken a nap though. I do feel like that. A nap would have been more constructive.
All right, let's do the books then, shall we? All right, first up, DCKO Wonder Woman vs. Lobo issue 1. Joelle Jones writing with Jason Howard and Cary Nord on the art. So this is the second of these one-shots, although technically, if the last little epilogue's anything to go by, which confused me, I assume that's me being punished for not reading that issue of Aquaman that probably filled in a gap there, because I'm like, what's happening? Why is there multiple boosters attacking Darkseid Booster? I don't know, but whatever. More on that later. This is the second of these one-shots we've done, though, and the third of these fight issues for Fight Month. And I'm already sick of this bullshit, Matt. I'm ready for Fight Month to be over it, because this was horrendous.
I tend to like Joelle Jones as a writer. Everything that I've read from her is pretty decent. This might be the worst thing from her that I've read. And I know that sounds rough, but it's so following a formula in that it was the same formula as Captain Atom and Superman. And at least I got to give Joelle Jones credit for trying to frame it differently. Right, with the framing device that she uses, but it's still the same thing. They fight. There's an early KO. They fight again.
Well, yeah, I mean,
it's like
that's part of it. Is though is like there's a best out of 3 fight, right? And I was like, okay, we're still doing that, but at least maybe it'll be something different. And then once the first KO happens, it's like, okay, now you both take different forms, and I'm like, oh, so we're just doing exactly the same thing as that other fight issue. And then not only that, like everything about it's just so like meaningless and random. It does not matter. Like the second round, it's like, hey Diana, you've got all 3 Wonder Girls to fight with you this time. How is that fair?
Yeah,
that doesn't make any sense.
No. And the justification is because in this form, the Wonder Girls are part of who Diana sees herself as. And I was like, okay, so then why doesn't, the Flash get the entire Flash family then? Right? Like, I don't,
or
it just wasn't a good
Superman last week. There's tons of Superman family members that could have technically shown up mystically to help him out, going by this logic. So there's that, and then the fact that round 3 ends up in lots of little rounds in and of itself, because it's like, hey, we're going to do a round of chess in round 3. We're also going to do a round of car jitsu or whatever they called it. We're going to do a round of this thing, and I'm like, this is all just random nonsense. None of this matters. None of it means anything. None of it matters.
And Pete, it wasn't just chess. It was chess boxing.
Oh, of course, yes.
Yes. Right. So it was a little bit silly. See, I wish that was in there earlier, because then it would have put me in a better mood, because that was silly, right? Like I was getting some chuckles out of that. The card jitsu, that's a funny joke. But I don't want it at the end of this comic that I already am like, oh my God, this is already too many pages.
Yeah, it's it's a longer issue. It's like 30 something pages, and it's It's just, it's nothing. The sad part is that like I could tell after the first like 5 or 6, you know, like once it sort of got into it and they'd already started fighting, I wasn't really liking the art, if I'm honest. I think Wonder Woman looks weird on those first several pages. They've got the thing where their face is all in shadow, but it just looks kind of weird. And also they've kind of repeated the same panel over twice, so it just feels lazy on top of just not looking very good. So you've got that. Me not liking how it looks, not liking the vibe. Not really ever really been in that much love with Lobo's sense of humor, which is a big part of all of this. And it just feels like, you know, like at least the Superman Captain Atom issue, as much as I didn't think it added that much, it still adhered to this idea that Superman's struggling with fighting someone to death because he's Superman and he's having to get over that. I don't think it added anything that the main issues didn't do, but at the very least it was still there and added some kind of character conflict beyond just he has to win the fight. Here, it really does just feel like fight. I mean, I guess the closest you get to actual like character in here is that Lobo keeps just being a little bit sexist and calling her princess and darling or whatever, and her punching him when she gets angry. But it's not enough to actually give it any like real story or way. It just, I'm like, we're going through the motions. And this actively made me want to not read another single one of these issues. I'm like, I don't want to do any of these fight issues. We're probably going to end up doing some of them, but I don't want to anymore.
No, I'm with you. Although I'm going to try to play the grass is greener type thing too, at least with a lot of the other characters. We mostly like them, right? It's not like a Lobo thing where we're going to get annoyed by characterization and whatnot. But yeah, this was a slog. And I hate reading Lobo. He's not a character for me. I mean, okay, like as much as I groaned when his second form in round 2 was New 52 Lobo, someone shitting on him for being the New 52 version. Although it's a weird meta thing where literally one of the Wonder Girls says, "What in the New 52 are you supposed to be?" And I'm like, doesn't work.
Why would a character in universe say that? It doesn't make any sense. Right. Like, it popped me, but as soon as I stopped and thought about it for a split second, I'm like, wait, this is stupid.
Well, and again, I feel like that was just to inform people in case they didn't realize that was the New 52 version.
Yes.
You know, supermodel Lobo. Right?
Joe would have done you there. A label. Just put a label next to his first like big panel saying New 52 variant or something, and that would do you.
Yeah, for sure. Like, one of the Wonder Girls yelling, "What the frag," would have worked a lot better for me. Right, because they're picking up some of Lobo's lingo.
And God, they are. See that page where he's revealed as a New 52 Lobo? The art on the bottom of that panel, like Yara Flor in the background, her face is atrocious. And then even worse than that, Donna Troy doesn't even have a face. She's just a blank, flat surface where her face is supposed to be. Did not like this art. Yeah, not for me.
It was very, very angular. You know, even the Lobo there, his face comes to a point when you're looking at that. And yeah, it looks like it's kind of stretched out, you know, like they pulled it from the top and bottom, you know. But yeah, just the fight wasn't even that fun. It wasn't even a philosophical battle. At least we had that with with Captain Atom and Superman. You know, this was just a typical fight. And with Diana, we already know that she's willing to draw swords and do things, right? Like, so my whole thing was, I would have liked for this to be like a she wins both rounds right off the bat. You know what I mean? Like, really put over Wonder Woman and her willingness to do what she needs to do. You know, that someone unkillable like Lobo.
Well, that's the other thing, is they get out at the end of round 3 where he's like, "Why do you keep fighting? I can't be killed. I made a pact with the devil," or whatever we want to call him. And
the entity
just sort of chimes in and goes, "You know what? We'll make that null and void for this." And then Wonder Woman kills him, and I'm like, okay, we could just do anything. We could just do anything at any moment.
Right.
I don't know. I feel nothing for this issue, but annoyed.
No, which I did say, I did appreciate that that framing device, that it starts off with we don't know it's the entity at the time, but it's somebody watching TV and they come across this battle, you know, like it's a wrestling match, whatever, and it goes through the TV, and then we go through the battle, and then at the end it kicks back in. But I almost feel like the ending framing part doesn't start early enough, right? Because they just show up there at the end. When Lobo starts talking about that, which I didn't realize that's why he couldn't be killed. I thought that was just a Zarnian thing. Like, he killed everybody else, and now as the last Zarnian, he can't be, right? Because he can be replicated by one drop of his blood or whatever. But yeah, it I give it a little bit more points for being creative with that, but it comes from out of nowhere. Like you said, we're just doing randomness. You know?
Everything about these like fight issues just annoys me, actually. Like, like we could just be anywhere, anytime, and that would be fine for one part of a story. I'm not saying that conceptually is always a bad thing necessarily, but I think it's a bad thing in terms of a list of comic book tie-in issues, because they all just feel the same, and it's like, well, the next fight issue is going to take place in whatever background we want, they're going to fight in whatever way we want, and then all that really matters is who wins at the end for the sake of the next round, but nothing meaningful is going to take place during the fight itself. And in the case of this one, like, I don't think the fight had much of a flow. I didn't really feel like I was getting a sequence to sequence of like something playing out. It just felt like a lot of random punches and so on. And then on top of that, the art, you know, at the end of the second KO, you know, when Wonder Woman steals his bike or whatever, and she comes flying in, her face on the bottom of that panel when like the entity's clicking off the channel, like it's atrocious. Like this is. Like, John Romita Jr., like, had sex with, I don't know, another bad artist and shot this out.
Yeah, it's not good. And you have Joelle Jones writing it, so you'd think, you know,
we have a good artist writing the story.
Yes.
Which is so weird.
Oh, man, it's a bummer. It definitely bums me out for the rest of these, because, well, I mean, there are a couple I am still interested in. But, like, it definitely makes me not want to go check out the Hawkman one. Because that said, like, I feel like, all right, one round will be in Atlantis, one will be in ancient Egypt. Who knows what the third will be? And we'll get some kind of weird decisive victory. You know? Yeah. Yeah, man, what a bummer.
And in the epilogue, like I said earlier, like, I don't even know what's going on here, because apparently these are in a specific order, and I assume the Aquaman one had to be read before this, because I don't understand why there's a bunch of duplicate Booster Golds attacking Darkseid, who's in the form of Booster Gold, and this ends with Booster or Darkseid killing the World Forger because he served his purpose. And that's it. I don't have much to add about that.
And then Darkseid claims to be inevitable, which is not his gimmick. That's gimmick infringement, brother.
I don't know. It's just what.
Yeah.
I have nothing to add. I really have nothing to say about this final couple
I will
pages.
say those last pages. I think those are those the Cary Nord pages of the Booster and World Forger.
Yeah, it tells you
after coming out of. Yeah, it
tells you at the start who's on what pages here. No, it's Daniel Bayliss is the artist on the last two pages. I didn't even mention him earlier on. Yeah. So
I will say, after coming off the art that we got, getting the Bayliss pages is a welcome. You know, I will say, like, to say something nice also, the way that he does the Omega Sanction and the way that he puts frames inside the angles, I think that looks really cool. But yeah, we're back to hovering around Darkseid's crack right there. You know, you see the Kirby crackles going around.
Oh well, what a pittance. What are you rating Wonder Woman versus Lobo, Matt?
I'm gonna give this a 5.
I'm going 3. I hated this issue.
Oof.
I hated it. It was bad. I wanted to stop reading it. I just sort of forced myself through it, but it was bad. All right. Absolute Batman issue 15. Scott Snyder writing with Jock on the art. So not the regular artist, but it's hard to complain about Jock jumping in for art. So, you know, there you go. And this is an issue in which Alfred is basically telling Bruce everything he knows about this mysterious man who does not laugh, aka Joker, or in this case, was it John Grimm? Was the name?
Or Jack Grimm. Yep. JK.
Yeah, I will say I did see one of the things coming that he eventually gets to, because he's talking about his great grandfather, and then it's like, oh, Jack Grimm the second, then the third, and I was like, bitch, this is all one guy. This is one guy who's been alive for the last like 150 years. You're not fooling me.
So what got me is I was doing the math on the ages and tracing it back to the starting point. And when we got to Jack Grimm V, there wasn't enough time. So I was like, wait a minute. And I was like, Snyder's not that careless, right?
What, you mean the first?
So we get to the first one, right? And we start back there. And then the Joker that we're dealing with, the man that doesn't laugh that we've seen, you know, in the pages, it's supposed to be Jack Grimm V.
Yeah,
right?
they said he was born in the 70s, which is plenty of time. So I don't know what you mean.
No, that his dad was. That was the fourth. Was born. He was the one that right? Unless I misread that.
I think the fifth was the 70s because they said the fourth was in the whatever time period, and I went, oh, that's too far back. Surely he's too old now, if that's what we're going with. Not that the age matters now that we all know it's one guy who's been alive for however so long.
So it says Jack Grimm V, young smart. Oh yeah, okay. He was born sometime. No, it says Jack Grimm IV was born sometime in the late 70s, and then took the company into gaming systems. And then Jack Grimm, Jack Grimm V, young, smart, and by far the most successful. So that's the thing that got me. If the fourth was supposed to be born in the late 70s.
That's still enough time, though. That is still enough time.
Is it?
Yeah, I mean, if he has him at 20, then that's the 90s. He'd be 30 now.
Fuck. Time, pardon the language. You have to edit that.
What are you talking about? He could be born in like 2003 and be in his 20s, which would still be fine.
Yes, I just showed my own hand on at the time where I was like, dude, there's no way. That guy's not that old. That's only a little bit older than me. And I go, oh, I could have a 20-year-old.
Yes, like, you could.
You know? Yeah. So, but no, once they started going through all the different Jack Grimms as well, I was like, oh no, this is the same guy. Like, there's no way that it's not. Like, we're dealing with literal Satan personified. All right, like he's been around forever.
Which, to be fair, I don't think predicting that's that big of a deal because there's more revealed with that. Because they did a whole thing here where he's telling the intel. He's like, here's what we know for a fact. There's not a lot of photos or whatever of this Jack Grimm guy. And he talks about how he was a clown, but he never laughed himself. He would get money outside the theater and stuff, and then he helped fund the start of the film industry. He was into silent films, and then he's supposedly the son would be in the first talkies and funding that type of cinema, and then so on. And then once you get to the fourth or fifth, it's like, oh, he's added in video games and streaming platforms. This idea that every version of him, and it's really all the one guy, has been funding every like sort of version of entertainment, sort of tying with the idea of clowns being entertainment the entire time. But of course, the other side of that, because what the issue does is that it sort of goes back to that same like 2-page layout of like how this story started, but Alfred kind of puts in, because the running theme of this is that Batman keeps saying, stop saying what you know, what do you think, old man? And eventually he's like, well, the rumors are that yes, he was making people laugh outside the theater, but that's because he was pumping in like the early forms of laughing gas, which was making them laugh so he could rob them. And that obviously ties into the main universe stuff where Joker always makes people laugh to death. And he, is evil, blah, blah. And then he eventually gets to the idea that, oh, I believe he's been funding, like, he's had his hand in everything, right? Okay, on face value, he's been funding children's orphanages and charities and things like that. But he's also funding Nazis. He's also funding, like, both sides of every conflict so he can be in complete control. And that's kind of when we're getting to that backstory. And this is all playing out whilst we're also seeing other things from him, which is that, and Alfred also explains that he owns a bunch of little islands that are like useless because they're too distant and discreet and they're too small. You can't develop them into anything. But he owns all these little islands all over the planet, and he goes to visit them every year. And it's like, why is he doing that? And then the end of the issue kind of reveals maybe he's been looking for someone for the last however many years, or maybe he's just had him stashed here. Maybe every island's got someone on it that he's put there that he wants to eventually go and hunt and kill for his amusement, if you will.
Yeah, because the guy that's there was somebody that was looking into one of the Jack Grimms.
Yeah, someone who was getting too close.
Working for the FBI. Yeah, and then they just disappeared, and no one has seen him since. And Alfred. So when we meet this guy who's living there looking like Tom Hanks in Castaway, the name matches. It's Harvey, what was it? Something. Because the name starts with H-A, so he ends up saying Ha. right? And yeah, it's just, this is a man that has all the power, right? He's playing stuff against himself, so he always comes out ahead, which is, I guess, the ultimate joke, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think the creepy part for me was when Alfred, because he keeps emphasizing this guy never laughs, and no version of him has laughed throughout the years, but the rumors, like the really unknown rumors that are really deep in the secrecy, is that there is one time when he will laugh. He will laugh right before he's killing you, or right as he's revealing who he really is, and it sounded like there's something really creepy about the idea of a villain who will only show emotion and laugh right at that moment, but they've completely broken you to like death or whatever. I don't know. It was a really interesting little detail that I thought was really creepy. So yeah, I don't know. I thought that was really cool. But yeah, they really build up the mystique of this guy throughout the entire issue. It's obviously this bigger backstory to the whole thing.
Like, look, we always say that we always like when the Joker is like kind of this amorphous. We don't know the full origin of him, where he comes from.
Yeah.
But the fact this is a different universe, right? And it's Snyder starting from scratch, and he's playing with that idea, right? That the Joker's just always been there, right? It's always the same guy, you know? And so we don't know it's actually true. So the fact that Bruce keeps asking Alfred, like, okay, well, that's fine, but what do you believe? So it's not just what he knows, but, you know, it's almost like the power of belief is the key to all of this. And I really like that, because again, it's not what's true about the Joker, it's what you believe to be true.
Yeah, although I suspect some of this is going to end up being true. Like, so I found the bit that I was referencing there about like the only time he laughs. It's when he brings up that, there's a darker project that he's a part of that's maybe even ties into the Arkham, or all the various arcs that he has. But he says, I have records of grim investments in some of the deadliest inventions of the last 100 years, from the bomb to bioweapons, viruses, and there are records of them laughing, Bruce, the grim men, at the test, and only then. So this idea of like the only time like Joker laughs in a 20-year period is when he sees the first atom bomb go off, is like really sinister. Like that's really messed up. And I think it sells this idea that if we see him laugh at some point, it's going to feel like, oh shit, like Batman's going to be at his lowest moment and Joker thinks he's won, or he's done something terrible. Like he's building this up to feel like the end of the world when this eventually happens.
Yeah. And then again, the Jock art there on that page, where the smile on his face as he watches that atom bomb go off, it isn't like a regular smile, right? It's just this big rictus grin where it's almost overtaking his complete face, right? Where it's almost showing what the true form is right there. You know, it's like not a human smile. So I really like that. And then just the creepiness throughout, like even the early pages where they're getting into the history of the Grimm guys, the way that the pages are laid out to where they not mirror, but
it's repetitious intentionally, where it sort of uses the same layout, but there's like details changed every time we go back to it.
Yeah, like it fades into what the reality is, and there's like all these little subtle changes there, you know, and it adds that much to the creepiness. Like there's something right beneath the layer that we can't see, which is again, it reinforces the narrative of this Joker.
Yeah, and then obviously the art really goes wild at the end when he finds this guy on the island and the guy's terrified because, oh, it's you're the one who put me here. He transforms. Joker transforms into whatever he really is, right? You know, because again, that's the other way that Alfred describes it. The one whose laughter we only hear when it's too late, and then we see a panel of Joker laughing when he's transformed, and Batman says, so who is he? And he says, he's the Joker. And we get this big demonic, like it's like almost demonic green horns that he has. He's got rows of sharp teeth, a big red tongue coming out, like proper like evil looking shit here. It's selling the idea that the Joker in this universe isn't a person. It's, you know, it's like a thing. Yeah, well, it's like, I don't want to quite say Cthulhu, but something like that elemental, something that's like, evil personified, that's been existing at least since, 1880 or whatever the year was when he first came on the record.
Yeah, so there's a saying in storytelling where angles are dangerous, right? Like in physical, or in not virtual storytelling. What I'm looking for visual storytelling. There's the word. And that like sharp angles, because they're all dangerous at all points. This Joker is all pointy angles, right? From his elbows to his knees, the claws, the horns, teeth, face, everything. He's a big, gigantic triangle given form. And yeah, he is scary. Like this is like human, like deep in your lizard brain, scary Joker. Like not the Joker that we've seen where he's super, super creepy and he can kill you at any minute. This is like primordial, kind of fear. He's
like a force. He's like a demonic force that's been here for a long time. Now, I am curious if like maybe he did come into existence when he starts the story about the first version, of Grimm, but it's just been one guy all the whole time, obviously.
Right.
I wonder if there's a reason why he appeared then. What is it, because media became something more evolved? Is it tied to that, or did something happen in the world that led to his creation, or something? If he is from hell or he is from some other plane of existence, did something happen that shoved him into the world? Like, I wonder if we're going to get into that at some point. But the end of the issue is Batman making an excuse to go see Wayland to leave, and Alfred's narration is like, "Oh, great old man, you've scared him off with all this like spooky talk." But the end of the issue reveals Grim Joker coming back in human form to what usually is the Wayne Manor, I presume, because it's there's the mansion out there on the outskirts of the city, and he goes into the building and he changes the number on the clock and it opens an entrance to, and he calls it the cave. So Joker is the one with the cave under the manor in the Absolute Universe, which is not the most shocking reveal ever, but it's a nice little touch at the end after everything else we've already seen.
Yeah, and the fact that he's walking down what looks like into actual hell. There's this red glow, and it even looks like a half of a smile. This red with,
I don't think that's meant to be like a literal thing. It's just like like a visual flourish of like that's what it looks like.
Yes. It looks like hell, like he's descending down into there. So, and in fact, like as much as I want to believe he's this primordial force or whatever, I do think it boils down to belief. And I think that this version of the Joker, is he's done the experiments, right, that has turned him into this over time. You know what I mean? And he's just gonna let these stories propagate because it makes him, all that more powerful. Kind of like a Ra's al Ghul kind of vibe, So
I mean, maybe I could see it all being accurate though. I could see them going down this path, and if they do, it kind of feels like, what's the best way to phrase it? It feels like this is this universe's version of Barbatos, right? So instead of Barbatos, you have the Joker Barbatos, which is this. Yeah. And instead of it being like, tied to a person, it literally just is him. Like he is the Joker Barbatos of the Absolute Universe.
Well, it's almost like, what if Bruce had embraced Barbatos, right? This is what he would have become. This kind of entity, and this guy, Jack Grimm, actually did embrace it. And now it's using him for its
so assuming he started off as a human, like that first Jack Grimm was born as a child and did until something changed, he embraced something, connected to something or whatever it was. Who knows?
Because that's what I feel it's closer to, is that he started off as a person and has become this over time, and that kind of does go in with, like you were saying, there's a bit of a Lovecraftian vibe to it, whereas he's almost given up his humanity to be something more, right? It would have driven anybody else insane, but not Jack Grimm, because he's just, he is that personified already, and it was emerging. So, but yeah, I didn't even think about the Barbatos thing until you just said it, and it makes perfect sense.
Yeah, like that may be where he started off with the idea for this, is like, okay, Barbatos exists. So what's the opposite of Barbatos? Well, Joker's version of that, and then that's what the Joker is on this other universe is just. I mean, I could be wrong. Maybe I'm barking up the wrong tree, but
no, but it checks out with anything. And I go, this is the type of storytelling I think Scott Snyder excels at. Like, as good as he is in all the other things.
It's a horror story.
Yeah, well, there's that, and just laying all this groundwork, and you can tell he really likes. I'm not necessarily doing the research, but the way that he's tying it to real world stuff, like you brought up the media, right? Like it started through there, and then he gets involved in radio, and then movies, and then the internet, and all this other stuff.
Yeah, video games, and then like online video games, and like that. That's kind of like we see the progression of this idea of how he has a hand in all these things, presumably to. One, because it ties into the idea of a clown being a performer, so he's always got his hand in the performances, if you will, of the entertainment. But also the manipulation of those things can help shape the world, right? This idea of the propaganda and messages and whatnot.
And again, you look in the real world, how things have changed over that time, and it's very similar.
Yeah.
Right? And people are being able to be swayed by that. So,
well,
this is the type of stuff that I love that he does.
I mean, this story literally starts with Alfred saying, hey, one of the first movies ever made was in 1880 something, right? And I was like, oh, so that makes it feel like it is tied to the birth of like visual entertainment, right? Of that kind of thing, not live plays, but something that's captured on a camera of some kind and presented on a screen in some form. For the masses to be shared. Yeah. Yeah. So I do wonder thematically if it does tie into that, if not literally at some point.
And that's where you get the more people that believe in the Joker, the more powerful he is, right? So again, it's one of those things, the more people that see him and see this type of thing.
Oh, we don't know that yet, but I mean, if that theory tracks, then sure.
Yeah. So, but it's really good. Like this is, I woke up Wednesday, downloaded this so I could start reading before work, and I haven't done that in a very long time. Usually I'll just get the books when I get to them, but yeah, Absolute Batman was as soon as I wake up, let's get this thing going.
Yeah, I think
it did not disappoint.
Yeah, I think it was the first thing I read as well. Yeah, I don't think there was anything else I read before this. I think this was the first one I went to. So, but all right, yeah. No, obviously we mentioned that here or there, but yeah, Jock's art is very good. Like he's always been very good.
Yeah, from the way that he just draws, like even Joker standing there on the island. And it's bright lights, but he still seems like he's in the shadows. Like it's this weird thing that Jock does. Like he plays with light so well. And yeah, just across the board, we get all that. And then when we finally get to see Batman show up there at the end, and he's mostly in silhouette.
Because he's just the voice really for most of the issue, as he's hearing about the story. I also like that Alfred kind of brings up in his narration. One, he mentions that Bruce has been seeing this warrior in Gateway City, referencing Wonder Woman. But I do like this idea of like between Bane's form and what's happened to Wayland and everything that's been going on recently, and then stuff like Wonder Woman fighting these kaiju looking things in other cities. This idea of like Bruce having to deal with and take in his stride the fact that the entire world's changing so dramatically and that there's all these monsters popping up. Like it's one thing to like hear, oh, Joker's like a monster in this universe and say, oh, maybe that's a little uninspired. But I do feel like there is a coherence here to this idea of like this being like a universe-wide problem right now, is that all these entities of some kind. You look at Absolute Martian Manhunter and the White Martian in that, or so on and so forth. Like I feel like there's kind of this almost theme across all of them that doesn't make it feel like an eye-rolling thing. It makes it feel like a thought-out idea of like we're really dealing with something where these all link in together. So that's cool.
Well, yeah, because even look at Flash, and even and to a lesser extent, Absolute Superman, where that's one been much more normal type of stuff, right? But yeah, it is the idea of monsters and what that form is, and it makes me wonder about Darkseid. Like, what is he doing? Why are these monster forms the preferred forms? Is that what he really thinks of himself? Just that crackly face, and now it's extending to others. But. Yeah, man. Snyder and Jock. It's a perfect team.
All right. What do you give an Absolute Batman?
I'm going to give this a 9.5.
I'm going to go straight 9. But so excellent book. And a nice score to give to something after that horrible tie-in issue we just talked about before this one.
Yeah. All
right. Action Comics 1093, Mark Waid writing with Skylar Patridge on the art. Back in the art, even, after an issue off. So that's cool. So this issue, as the cover heavily implies, is about a foreclosure on the farm. But not just the Kent farm. Every farm in the town. And the point of the issue is very much this idea of like Superman or Superboy being faced with having to make a moral choice and like figure out the right way of doing something. And it's presented very straightforward, first of all, because, you know, when we find out that all these banks, or this bank is going to close all these farms and kick people out of their homes, even though everyone involved is all thinking they're up to date in payments, no one is actually behind, but they're told, no, there's some sort of error, it looks like you've all behind, and blah, 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 you're going to have to move out. You know, Superman like goes to a gold mine, grabs a hunk of gold, brings it home and puts it on the table and says, here, mom and dad, use this to save everyone's thing. And they're like, and both of them say no. And he's like, no, it's not stolen. I just took it from a mine. Like, it's not, you know, I didn't take it from anyone.
I found it. Yeah. Well, and I love what Pa Kent says. He's like, look, man, we don't know where your powers come from, right? They could disappear at any point. And what are we left with? We got to solve this the old-fashioned way. And I really like that. I really like them pointing out to Clark that, like, yeah, sometimes you got to think about solving problems without being Superboy or Superman, you know? And I love where that leads to in the story.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, it's just this idea of, like, we couldn't have solved it this way, you know, like, it's one thing for you to swoop in and save someone who's falling to death, right, or something like that. That's completely fair game. But this is using something for your own gain. And he tries to argue that it isn't, because it's about them. And they're like, yeah, but you live here. So it's helping you too. Well,
and again, Mark Waid, really great at interpersonal dynamics, because Clark starts yelling and Pa's like, watch your tone. You know, like at the end of the day, that's still his dad. For all the superpowers he has, and he could dig through this gold mine and still, but at the end of the day, he's still someone's son.
Yeah, and
you know, there's that respect in between them.
The ultimate thing he does is that he decides to, as Superboy, go to this guy at the bank, this manager, and speak to him. He is not there yet, but he does kind of like poke around, and he sees some contracts that prove this guy's scheming because he agreed to sell all this land and get a cut of the profits before all these computer errors started happening. So it's like, okay, how do I deal with this though? Because if I take this, I'm stealing these documents, and that kind of hurts a lot of the argument here. And if I don't, he'll get rid of them. And he ends up sort of like threading the needle a little bit to make the guy think that he's stolen these documents, so he runs in to get them. But Superboy's actually brought his boss here to check them out. I have no idea if that'll be a clean transition or not, because Matt's internet's went out multiple times now during the recording of this.
I keep getting pulled to the Phantom Zone, and I don't like it.
So if that was an awkward jump, apologies, but we'll continue with Action Comics here now.
Yes.
So yes, the whole dilemma he has, where he brings in the head of the bank, or basically the guy's boss from the head office to catch him, try to get rid of the papers. And I think my favorite thing about this is not so much what he does or how it plays out. It's perfectly fine, but for me, it's more the moment afterwards where the Kents say to him, like, you know, if you had to steal them to save everyone's houses, if that was the only option, would you have done it? And Clark says, are you trying to make me say something you don't want to hear? Because, you know, I don't want to get yelled at or whatever. And he's like, we're just trying to understand the sort of decisions that you might have to make, you know, as you're doing more of this stuff. And because I think, at that point, it's like, I don't know if we, the audience, the readers would disagree with him doing that, even if it is technically crossing a bit of a line. There's innocent victims being, you know, shoved out of their homes here. It's less of a, obviously, yes, Superman always wants to go through the right channels and do things properly and all the rest of it. But if he's faced with a choice where it's the only option, I do like the idea that at least teenage Clark would be like, well, if that ended up being the only option, I mean, I thought my way out of it, but maybe I won't always be able to think my way out of the awkward situation. Maybe sometimes I have to, you know, bear the weight of a decision that's going to have a downside.
Yeah, and I like that it's put up against that with how Pete responds to the coach that was in the bank, right? So at the beginning of the issue, when they go, they all go to the bank. Everyone's freaking out. The coach for Smallville football team is wearing a mask and has a shotgun or a rifle or whatever, and Pete Ross is able to talk him down because he recognizes coach's voice. He's wearing a football team hat or whatever. And Clark looks at him and is like, wow, Pete was able to do that, and Pete doesn't even have superpowers. It's like I could have, the narration from present day Clark is like, oh, now I would have melted, heated up the gun with my heat vision, but I didn't have heat vision at the time, and I couldn't have him fire at me because who knows where the shrapnel's going to go or whatever. But Pete was the one that was able to go, and I do like that it starts there and it gets to the point where Clark is able to think his way through, right, to do what's right.
Yeah, it's interesting to bring that up because I don't think I realized that he didn't have heat vision yet. Because it never occurred to me that he's not used it in this arc or so far. But I like that moment. I like him sort of respecting Pete for that, and I think also there's a few moments of him like internally thinking, "Oh, it was so frustrating not being able to tell someone." I think we are probably building to Pete finding out at some point in the near future. I think Mark Waid's going to tell that story. But yeah, no, I like the build up at the start of the issue, even before we get to the bank and he comes in with the gun and possibly to do something bad. Is Pete and Clark are hanging out with Lana, and there's some jokes here about her like looking at the sky to see Superboy so much she almost steps in wet cement and all the rest of it, and it's all just fun and good vibes. But they sort of do this cool thing where they tease like Pa Kent very quickly hung up the phone on Martha and went somewhere when he got a letter from the bank, and even Martha doesn't know why or what's going on, so that's what sends Clark over to the bank to see what's going on. And then we see obviously there's tons of people complaining, and I like the sequencing of all this because it did a good job of teasing that something was wrong, and then but it felt very natural the way it played out, I thought, particularly for the first half of the issues. It was unfolding what was actually happening. And then the moral dilemmas were kind of the big part of the second half of the issue, which is also good. So yeah, it felt like another example of Mark Waid trying to tell a young Clark Kent story of just him being confronted with something that's not clear cut, right? Something that takes a little bit more nuance because he has to actually think about what the various choices he has, how each one will affect, and is any one of them stepping over a line? And so on. I like him being challenged with those things. So, and on that level, I have no real complaints with this issue, honestly.
Yeah, no, and I just love we get the small town vibe of like when, he shows up and the whole town's there, and he's just talking to them as Clark Kent, trying to figure out what's going on. And then the scene where he goes to the farmer who has the gun pulled on the police because the police are coming to serve the notice, and he's like, "Don't step foot on here," and Clark puts himself between the farmer and the police, Yeah,
but the interesting part of it though is not so much that, it's more that afterwards when the farmer says, "Hey, Superboy, are you going to do something about this?" And he's like, "Well, no, I just flew down to stop, de-escalate this tense situation." And he's like, "Well, so you're letting the bank do this then, so what good are you to us if you're just going to let that happen?" And that's kind of what motivates Clark to really start thinking about, okay, how can I actually solve this issue without betraying like the ethical lines that my parents have set out for me? Right. Like I like that. I like that dilemma, and I like him feeling a little like not insulted. That's not the right word, but just that moment where the farmer like throws some shade at him for not like helping the way he thinks he should, and is, "Oh, how do I deal with the fact that I've just disappointed people and that clearly they need help, but I can't just do the first thing that comes to their mind because that's just they're angry. Of course they want me to just go punch some people in the face."
It's the self-realization that he can't solve everyone's problem, and we've been slowly getting there with all these little things. Like in the last issue, when he went into Metropolis and tried to help that lady, and inadvertently hurt her because she was blind and freaking out and couldn't tell what was going on. It's one of those moments where he's realizing, like, for all the cool stuff I can do, I'm still pretty limited, Well,
I don't think that's exactly this moment, though. I think that is a lesson he's been learning, and we are getting moments like that, and it is part of this story. But I think that moment, more specifically, is actually the motivation to figure out a way of doing it, because he's already kind of accepted that he can't do something because his parents have told him not to, and he's frustrated with that. And it's this interaction with this farmer and the cops where he's like, okay, I need to think of something, because he's right, I should do something about this. And this is basically showing that while obviously his parents are good teachers and they're good parents and they're teaching him right from wrong and all the rest of it, this is showing that he went a step further because he's Superman and was able to think of some kind of a solution that his parents would never have thought of. So it's showing that he's obeying their teachings, but he's actually going above and beyond as like even better at doing this kind of thing than they could teach him to be. So, you know, on that level, I think it does a really good job of being an early, you know, Superman Clark Kent story. And then the ending just teases that maybe General Lane's going to call him in to go help with a war situation. There's just a couple of pages at the end with a soldier begging for backup in some location. And yeah, apparently Lane's been sketching out what Superboy's outfit's going to be. His uniform.
Nope, don't. Don't like this. Nope.
Oh, no.
Yeah, you know.
Oh, I suspect there's going to be more moral dilemmas in Clark's near future with this. Like, because General Lane's going to say, hey, annihilate that building of people. And he's like, excuse me? No, I'm not doing that.
No, they're still people. I don't care if they're not from another country, you know? But yeah. I don't know. It gives me a little bit of, you know, they try to do that Superman year one story with Frank Miller, where Superman was in the military and it just, you know, not good. So I feel like Waid's showing why that's not a good idea here, you know? So again, I trust him to tell this, but yeah, seeing the Superboy in military fatigue sketch gave me like the oh no thank you vibes.
Yeah, well, I don't think this is going to be something that Clark is going to enjoy doing, and he's probably going to face some tough decisions or learning moments through it, which is the entire point of doing this whole Superboy era of Action Comics in the first place. But yeah, no, pretty good. And then Skylar Patridge, nice to have Patridge back. You know, again, I think the cleanness of the art, it really fits that small town vibe that it's going for. And I think the plot of this one, with all the angry people in the bank and the evil banker, it was and maybe it's just because I watched it recently, but it was giving me a lot of It's a Wonderful Life vibes. This was Mr. Potter and It's a Wonderful Life, try to like kick everyone out of their homes. Very, very similar in its idea. But they don't have George Bailey, they've got Clark Kent. So
that's right.
They did all right.
Yeah, and then even just like the big moments too, like where the guy sees Superboy, the bank guy, and which is also he's not bald, but he has a very, you know, close shave. So there's definitely some Luther going on here, right?
Yeah, it's a bit of Luthering, yeah.
But he sees him and then he turns to run to go get the papers, and that's where the boss catches him. That entire sequence I feel is handled so well with the close-up of the eyes, right? And then the way that he turns and goes through. There's a lot of sense of motion and action and like this freneticness that's there. Yeah, so it was very good to have Patridge back. Yep.
So I think Clark's just got a hunk of gold just like sitting in his bedroom now. That he's not allowed to go and trade in for money. I just got a hunk of gold. I'll just keep this paperweight. When
that's when we find out he finds his heat vision by getting really into metallurgy, right? So he starts fashioning himself some jewelry, you know, and the heat vision makes that so much easier.
I'm going to turn this into lots of jewelry for Lana. I'm going to turn it into some rings, some earrings, maybe a bangle. Maybe I don't know. Maybe she wants a nose ring. I don't know.
Yeah, and it's also funny that she ends up with steel, right? Like, so we're seeing here that, I mean, she gets her own Superman eventually, you know? So I think that's funny. But yeah, all the whole young love stuff is still so good. So yeah, hope he does something nice with that big hunk of gold.
Yeah, all right, what are you giving Action Comics?
I'm going to give this a 9. I really enjoyed this one.
I don't think I'm going to go that high. I'm going to go with a nice 8 out of 10 for me. I think this was a good issue. But that's about it, I think. So a great issue even. I just don't think it's, you know, amazing, I guess, is what you were going with. All right. Green Lantern Corps, issue 11, license number 114, Morgan Hampton writing with Will Conrad, Max Dunbar, and French Calmagno on the art. So still a lot of artists, although the specific issue with the last one, which was one of the artists was so different and drawing a specific character so differently from the others that it was actually confusing. That problem is gone, right? So it's still a little bit all over the place for art in terms of it's not, you know, it's never going to win our Art of the Week award, I don't think, but It's not actively confusing, so that is a win. And I will say that I think this water villain, like him explaining his backstory at the start, I actually quite like this backstory. I think it's quite interesting.
Yep. So do I. Just the whole idea that he comes from this hive mind, and the Green Lanterns had brought these refugee people from a planet that got destroyed, and they came in and kind of destroyed the hive mind. Now he's the last one left, so he has beef for the Green Lantern Corps. Well, just bringing the people that destroyed.
Elaborate on that a little bit, because you made it so they just came out of the planet and killed them all.
Yeah.
So this was a hive. So the planet is Enquar, and it was just an ocean planet, nothing but ocean, and the Green Lanterns presumably thought that there was no life here because it was all just water. And this alien race that had lost their world had kind of done it to themselves by pollution, and then they kind of did it to this world after the fact as well. And all of the other life in the water, presumably all water-based life, all died except this one remaining survivor. So obviously it's a lot like the other character, Fatality, her being the last of her kind and all that, which is why he's going to her for assistance. He doesn't really need her, as he puts it. He just kind of he wants her to help because he thinks she would appreciate getting revenge on the Green Lanterns. And that's who he blames. He blames the Green Lantern Corps for this. He doesn't blame the alien race who came and then eventually left after they sort of ruined the world with their oil rigs and all the rest of it. But I think it's an interesting backstory. One, I like the idea that he's a water life form and that they were all part of a hive mind. The idea that he fuels himself by sucking the life force out of someone, and that turns him into that person or alien or whatever for a short time before he reverts back into water mode. But that's how he feeds, is he sucks whatever out of them. So he's explaining all this to Fatality at the start of the issue, but then the rest of the issue we skip to the other characters. We got Ellie on Mogo, who is with all these other lantern or light construct based beings, and she ends up encountering Effigy, who comes out of Mogo pretty pissed off. If I have a critique, is that maybe there is just a couple too many things going on again in this issue. Even though I kind of liked most of the stuff that was going on, it was just maybe a bit too much in one go.
A lot of juggling going on here. Yeah,
because we introduced that, and then we immediately go over to the young lanterns being trained again by Kilowog, and they're talking about, your astral projection lantern self, and all that malarkey, which they get to.
I do love that Kilowog's like, if Guy can do this, you guys can do this.
Yeah. The main dramatic thing here is that Aya can't do it at first, but the other three can, and she's questioning, is it because I don't have a soul because I'm not as organic as everyone else? And Kilowog says that's nonsense, but when she does eventually do it, it's because Razor's fighting with, I forget his name, but the Yellow Lantern.
Arkillo.
Thank you, Arkillo. They're fighting in the skies above, and it's when that's happening where she finally does it, and she's able to basically go into Razor and resuscitate him, kind of thing. And it's like a whole little moment, and it's like, hey, can we all do that? And I think Kilowog's like, no, I think that's just a her thing. So it's setting up that she actually has some unique extra abilities with it because of her her nature of being.
Yeah, and we find out that the red and yellow lanterns are fighting right now because, on Oa, all of the different corps have their own areas, and there's these little disputes going between them. And through this, they find out that stuff has been missing. And Kilowog immediately is like, oh, well, Larfleeze is here, isn't he? Why are you guys fighting when clearly he's probably the one? And so I do like that. It gives it a little bit of a sitcom-y kind of vibe here, too. In a good way. That's a compliment.
I do like how they intermingle a little bit because Ellie calls John for help, and he's been kind of standoffish with her. But as he's getting this call, and he's with his wife, that's when the other plot flies past him in the background, and Guy and Kilowog with the rookies are chasing the fight that's happening, and he's like, well, I think they've got that sorted. I'll go and help Ellie. So he does, and they have a fight with Effigy. And it looks like Effigy kills Ellie at one point, and there's a super angry moment where John's like, you just effed up, and gets all pissed. The big thing here, one, she ends up being okay, for one, but John kind of says, I don't really consider her to be my sister, because she's technically not, but I'm not saying she isn't family. He's basically just saying she is something else. She's something new, but she's not my actual dead sister because that's someone who's gone. But he does seem to care about her. So we're setting up some interesting kind of dynamics there.
Well, and the fact that it even shocks Effigy, because Effigy is like, I didn't mean it. And John goes like postal and is like, she was just a kid. She only ever wanted to help, you know? And so, so John's coming through this, you know, like she's realer than real at this point, you know, like she's her own entity, her own being. And then when she reemerges and he's like this, because we already know that she's got the blue energy, right? Yeah, she's a screen construct. Yeah. And so she comes back and like with these butterfly wings, like she's been reborn almost. And it's this really nice, like symbolic moment. And she's hovering over John almost like an angel, you know? So yeah, I feel like there's a lot more going on here.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, but it definitely feels like we're going to learn more about that. And Effigy's ending, by the way, is he just kind of gives in. He says he wants to go to the light and he flies into the sun. So he basically just kills himself. And it's like a really dark moment of like, oh, geez, that's... Okay, John doesn't even know how to take it. He's like, well, this is wild.
But yeah, because he doesn't want to go to that cell again because he was trapped in like this lantern inside Mogo. And because Mogo split because of what had happened before, you know, with the... was it before the space vampires? When it was the Durlin guy that used Mogo, right? That's why he's splitting.
I don't remember.
I can't remember, but yeah, it was a plot point before. Sorry, there's a plot point before, and so you see like these big like fault lines in Mogo, and that's where Effigy comes out of. And so again, with Ellie showing up there, and she's this Blue Lantern, I do like that she's there to kind of put Mogo at ease, you know, in a way. And there's like this fire that comes up from him. You know? Yeah,
but the important part, though, is that when he does decide to fly into the sun, he says, I won't go back to that cell. I don't care why he freed me. And John's like, wait, who? Who put you there? Who freed you? So there is a mystery here of like who trapped him in Mogo. So that's something we'll get to. The other thing is that Jessica Cruz is not happy with all this fighting, and she like makes a call to everyone, giant head construct, saying, this is it. I want representatives from every corps. I'm meeting tomorrow. I'm pissed, and that kind of is the wrap up of that stuff. And then the final page of the book goes back to the water being and fatality, where the water being feeds on the mechanic who was fixing up the ship and turns into him. And it seems like fatality's on board for getting revenge on the Green Lanterns, but it does seem like maybe they're going to swerve us there, and she's going to actually try and like stop him because she's kind of maybe. She's not inherently evil, and given the interaction she had with the John and the others last issue, it feels like she might swing in that way. But he says, I'm going to reanimate Inquar in my own image and use it to drown everything the Green Lanterns hold dear. And with them distracted, they won't even see you coming. So I like this plot they're building with this character for sure. Yeah. Obviously, having three artists on a book, it means that it's never going to be the most coherent art consistently throughout. It's very much just kind of trying to be house style throughout, so nothing special there. It's fine, it's serviceable, it gets the job done, but it's not doing much of...
I really like the Ellie and John stuff because what it does with the constructs and Effigy and the fire and just like her blue and green, and then when John shows up, like it's very clean, so the colors really pop compared to some of the other art.
Yeah, and fire obviously contrasts very well with blue and green because it's yellow and orange.
And so so that art, up against some of the other stuff, where like the stuff with the water dude, like it's fine. It's really heavy on the shadows, so it stands out as its own thing, But again, it wouldn't be my favorite art anywhere. But yeah, it's a fun story. I really like that we're getting all these different pieces of the corp, right? It doesn't feel like it's just one person's book, because we're following everybody. That sometimes can be a fault as well, right? Where we're not spending enough time.
Yeah, like, I love that all these characters are getting some time and they're all advancing and that there's like these through lines. I think it was just because we had both the fight on Oa Razor and Arkillo, but then we also had the effigy stuff. It felt like those two things in the same issue felt like a little bit too much. Although I did like John getting the call to go help and look that other fight's in the background. I thought that was a fun moment. But it's almost like, we could have saved like where he goes to though for the next issue potentially. But clearly there's so much they want to fit in because they want to get to whatever this big story they're building up to is. But I like pretty much everything here. I think maybe it could breathe a little bit more in some ways, but that's maybe my only critique. So
yeah, we line up again. Because I don't have much to add, but I do like seeing just the core themselves training the young, or the newer Lanterns, So those, as long as you don't lose those, I'll be good. That's a lot of fun.
No, they seem committed to sticking with those, as well as Ellie and everything else going on. So, no, still digging it. It's still a nice secondary Green Lantern book. It's it's just right at that level of being well and like good enough and interesting enough to keep with the other book, but at the same time, it's not in danger of kind of overtaking it at the moment. But we'll see. We'll see where it goes. All right, what are you giving Green Lantern Corps?
I'm gonna do 7.5.
I think I agree with that. I like what it's setting up with the water stuff, and then I like most of the characterization. So yeah, I'll agree with the 7.5 on that. All right, Batman and Robin issue 28, legacy number 94. Philip Kennedy Johnson writing with Stephano, Raffaele on the art. So different artist than normal, not Fico Ozio. I think that's who was on the art previously.
I believe so as well.
Yeah. So this one's got a twist at the end, which we build up to. It's a fun twist as well, because it's like, of course, this is something we could have seen coming, but we will get to it.
The way that the twist unfolds made me yell "What the hell" twice, to where my wife laying in bed next to me goes, "What's going on?" I'm like, "Oh, Batman, don't worry about it." Like, I'm reading, just, But yeah, oh man, what a fun series of twists and turns in this one.
Yeah, so the whole thing with this issue is that obviously the last issue ended with like Two-Face and Penguin's men finding Wesker, right? Finding the ventriloquist. And here we have our man here receive a note, right? He's looking for Penguin, but instead of Penguin, he finds this TV screen where Penguin says, "Hey, you're looking for the ventriloquist, Quiet Man, here. This is the address. Off you go. Yep. Leave us alone." So, Batman and Robin, Batman's going to interrogate Two-Face and try and find out what the hell happened with this guy's son and why this guy wants revenge. And we get the story, although it does kind of feel like there's still elements that are left to be revealed, like exactly what went down, why this guy stole these gold coins, or silver coins rather, that silver is the key focus of it all. So there's still some questions to be answered there. Meanwhile, Damien ends up interacting with the undesirables again. What are they called?
The Irregulars.
The Irregulars, that's them.
Yes.
And they're like, "Hey, we followed that guy home after that last action set piece last issue. Do you want to know where he went?" And Robin's like, "Yeah, take me there." And we find where he's been staying, and there's like the letters that he's been writing to his dead son, and all these other things. But most importantly, the letter that says the address of where Wesker is, and he tells Batman this, and and Batman's like, "Not now, Robin," but he's like, "No, seriously, you need to know about this. Like, he's got the address of, like, he's got this address," and then Batman's like, "Shit, that's where Wesker is. Get there now." So both Batman and Robin are on their way, and we see Wesker finally in this issue, and he's tied up with the lady that's been looking after him, and they're trying to break out of their chairs, and it feels like this is counting down to the Quiet Man coming in and like seeing them. And once he gets in, though, we get like a little cliffhanger here for the end of this scene where there's no one around, but he sees the chairs that have been broken out of, but he looks down and sees something, and he's shocked by it. And this intercuts with like panels of Wesker and the woman like hiding in a closet somewhere. But then Batman and Robin arrive, and the place blows up, right? This has been rigged to explode. Sorry, not rigged to explode. There's a guy with a rocket launcher from one of the gangs.
An RPG.
Yeah, to make sure that the Quiet Man's been killed, and like, "Hey, we got him." So Batman rushes in with Robin. Robin takes out Quiet Man, and Batman goes looking. But then he finds something. The big shocking twist of the issue is that the woman who was taking care of Wesker is lying there dead and wrapped in bandages, and she's been dead for at least a week. And the reveal is that Wesker's been talking to a version of her in his mind, and even when Batman was on the phone to her, it was Wesker with his ventriloquist skills talking with her voice. And then the final page makes it clear, just in case you don't get it, that he's running down the street talking to her. Suddenly she's got the G's instead of the B's in her speech.
Yep.
And then the guy who's like sitting outside his house talking to someone on the phone, he's like, some guy's talking to himself. And you see that he's on his own in the last panel. And I'm like, that's a fun little twist. That he's actually been off the deep end for a while and he's killed someone already. That's pretty good. Makes him quite intimidating in a sort of creepy way.
Yeah, because unsuspecting. Yeah, so when the body's wrapped up like that, I go, wait a minute, this is one of Bruce's people. Like, it's not just that easy, right? Bruce would know. And then when I see them running through here, I was like, well, then who's this lady? If that's Bruce's person, if that was that was keeping an eye on Wesker, who's this? And then when she says, I got a gig surprise for you, I went, oh no, this is a Scarface persona. And then you get the panel of him running down the street by himself. And I was like, oh, man, Philip Kennedy Johnson, masterful turn.
Yeah, for me, the last page just confirmed it. As soon as Robin said, then who have you been talking to? It clicked for me. I'm like, oh, I get it. He's just been talking in her voice, and he's projecting in the same way that he used to project Scarface. He's projecting her now instead. Maybe she'll start to turn into Scarface now, but at the very least, this is what he's been doing. So, it's that super kind of like unhinged, like creepy kind of like guy, as opposed to like, he's not the Joker, but this is like a very kind of like, he's going to believe something that puts you in danger, even if it's not the case, right? It's this separate personality.
And then you have to think that all those pages that we saw of them wrapped up in the house, right? They were tied together, and they break free and then they go to hide. You know what I mean? Like, he's experienced all that still, like what,
Yeah, but
what is going on there?
It's interesting though, she's the one talking him through that though, and saying, hey, try and do this to break free. I did it, see, it's easy. So once again, it's the voice that he's listening to from his own head that's actually like getting him through situations. And we always feel like it's Scarface is the bad persona, right? And Wesker's the one that gets, put down or whatever. And this seems like this voice is building him up, which I would feel is even more dangerous, right? Because like it's an unchained Wesker now. Like, what is he capable of? And yeah, just that whole sequence was fantastic. And then we get a little bit more backstory on the Quiet Man and his son, and they're from somewhere in the Blue Ridge Mountains, and that's why the Silver comes in, because there was a church they were a part of that fully believes like violence can be justified as kind of an act of service in the name of religion, and it's because of that belief that now he needs to get vengeance for his son, and so it definitely adds this other, like, this man's not going to stop, right? Because this is a full-on religious belief for him, not only was it his son, but this is what he feels he needs to do. And, it adds to that when Robin is like, no, these are letters to his son, that he has kept, so there's that driving force there too. But yeah, man, this is a real fun Batman book. Yeah. I mean, I think when Two-Face is telling the story of like the deal that went wrong, and Scarface showing up as like a third party when he wasn't supposed to. Yeah, I think that is maybe the only part that like I didn't love, just because it felt a little, I don't know, just a little clunkier the way he was telling the story. That page or two. Yeah. As we're hearing the details, like I felt like the details were hard to absorb because of how it was been told, as opposed to just like showing us more directly, I guess.
Yeah, and it's because of Falcone's guy flipped on them.
Yeah. Right,
and that left Scarface holding the bag essentially, because a car full of Scarface's guys went after him. Because it says when the shooting started, an old Falcone guy named Bradley took off in Mercer's truck. All the silver was in the back, so. It was almost like it was a frame-up job by Falcone. So yeah, it was one of these things where it made it needlessly elaborate, right? Yes. Where we didn't need it, but we got some really cool images of Scarface and Wesker in there with the red flashback style that we've been getting since Philip Kennedy Johnson took over the book, right? Very reminiscent of
the art here is pretty good. The only real complaint I have is that I do think Raffaele seems to be drawing Damien a bit older than the other artist was, like, or even most artists for that matter. He feels like he's more like 16 here when he's standing next to the other kids. But I mean, it's a minor quibble because I think everything looks quite good at the very least. Yeah. So. Yeah, especially towards the end, all that stuff with the Quiet Man going into the building and then seeing the body, and then we don't know it's a body yet. Like, all that stuff I thought looked great. So really added to the reveal of everything in that last chunk. So can't really complain too much on that front. All right, what are you giving Batman and Robin?
I'm gonna give this a 8.5.
I think I'm just gonna give it this flat 8 just because of the backstory. Feeling a bit more elaborate than you need to be, but otherwise, yeah, it was great. So I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. So yeah, 8 and 8.5. Cool. Supergirl, issue 8, legacy number 277. Sophie Campbell writing with Haining on the art. So this is just you reading this, Matt. Take it away.
Yeah. So, the last couple issues of this have... One of them was a Halloween issue, which, that's fine. The last one was a Thanksgiving issue, and it did, what Thanksgiving means with all these characters.
Christmas issue?
Yes. So now we're getting to a Christmas issue, and it's Lesla not, fully understanding Christmas because she's Kryptonian and right, she's from Kandor. But it kicks off with Campbell doing that weird Silver Agey thing where they try to bring in things that happen in the Silver Age, like they're canon, which again, at the end of the day, does not matter because it's story of the story. But it's starting to rub me the wrong way because it's going to, like, I don't know if this has really happened, and I didn't have time to research it. But when Kara first came to Earth, apparently Clark and Lois put her in an orphanage, and that is where the Danvers got her from. And because she was Supergirl still at the time, living in this orphanage, in order to balance both roles as Linda and as Supergirl, there was this robot that she kept in a tree outside the orphanage. And so, as we're talking about Christmas and Leslie trying to, figure out the snow and the cookies and what the whole spirit of it is, we have this subplot with Kara feeling like she's not being able to be there for everybody. And that ends up taking persona, that doubt, that self-doubt, in the form of this robot that she left behind in the orphanage for who knows how long now. And the robot comes back, and we get some real creepy, it's in shadow, red eyes, asking, Mistress why, because it calls her Mistress, destroying stuff in the Danvers house. So Lesla and Kara go to search for her, and they find this robot in the tree, and Kara has this really hard time being like, I can't believe I left you behind, and this type of thing, I gotta be better, why does this keep happening? And, Lesla ends up talking her down and being like, no, you're Kara, the Supergirl, You're able to keep doing all these things. Look what you've done for me, and look what you've done for everybody else. And we get kind of this, spirit of Christmas with the Danvers back at the house, where Lesla makes cookies for Kara, and they're in the shape of the Superman S. And it goes outside, and it looks like Kara has buried this robot outside of a tree outside the Danvers house. So it's almost like she's putting those self-doubts, into the ground. And I was just like, this is like, I understand the Christmas thing, right? And we got to do this, but bringing this weird robot into it as the form of these doubts, and there's a bunch of other stuff that we've encountered, right? And we've had this, undercurrent of things that are happening in the town with Lesla, with Lena Luthor, the new character that also has an L name, and it made it for really hard for me to want to finish the issue, just because it was like, all right, well, this robot adage is weird. Like suddenly it becomes Megan 3. You know, there's this robot that is like, I can't believe you left me. Why would you do that? And it's almost like Kara's survivor guilt, I guess, to all of this. And it kind of loses its Christmas focus at that point, where the last 2 issues really honed in on Halloween and Thanksgiving. So Haining's art's great. You know, I enjoyed Haining in Spirit World. Like that was a real fun book. So like the art really sings. The robot looks creepy. Because by the time that Kara and Leslie get to her, like she's kind of deteriorating. So there's wires and stuff sticking out, and one of the eyes is gone, like not fully Terminator red, but there's like red iris in the pupil. You know what I mean? Like there's the red, the white of the eye, and then the iris and the pupil are red. So it gives it this weird, almost human, like uncanny valley. So that looks cool, but. Yeah, it's making each of these last issues have made it hard for me to want to go back and read it still, because I'm feeling like a lack of cohesion between the stories and almost like a lack of identity in what it means for a Supergirl book. And not that it needs to be like up there with Superman and participating in all the crossover type stuff, but I thought we were in a really good place, and now it just seems like we're telling these weird, not for me stories, So, so I think this is gonna be my last one. We'll see how much that sticks, because I've said silly things before, right? But yeah, as of now, I'm probably gonna get off the bus, and unless I hear other things. But yeah, so I'll give this a 6 out of 10.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll do that. Moving on, we got Batman Gotham by Gaslight, League for Justice, yeah, that's the whole title. Batman Gotham by Gaslight, League for Justice. Yeah. For some reason, I thought there was also a Kryptonian age in there, but no, it's just no.
That was part 1.
Yeah, that was part 1. So yeah, this wraps things up, and I thought it was a frustrating issue, because I think there's parts of it where the ideas are really good. The idea that they're in the Phantom Zone and they realize they're standing in Darkseid's hand, like Kino, basically. But then, like everything wraps up so quickly with a weird double cross, and like Martian Manhunter might be a bad guy now, but Constantine was kind of tricking him too. Weird. Because
Martian Manhunter grabs the medallions that lead them back out of the Phantom Zone and disappears with them, seemingly leaving the League there. Why? I don't know. There was never any indication that Manhunter couldn't trust this League. You know what I mean? So that was super weird. Now, I could understand it in the terms of, hey, this stuff destroyed my planet. I don't want it to destroy this planet. But why leave the Justice League there?
Yeah, and the first chunk of the issue is basically just explaining the backstory of Darkseid, right? And it brings up they killed all the old gods, so then the new gods had to fight them, blah, 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 blah. And they talk about this being the Kryptonian age of when, because basically the Kryptonian stuff ended up taking over Mars. It took over and destroyed Krypton. That's why Zod worships Darkseid. And it did the same to Earth pretty much 40,000 years ago, and that's what the Kryptonian age is, so it kind of ties back into that. But then when they get into the Phantom Zone, there's some cool stuff with just the idea of them being there and how empty it is, and they're seeing visions of various things, and they find Lex. But for me, the whole idea at the end, though, that once they've been stranded in there by Martian Manhunter and they don't know what to do, where they basically say, well, it's all about channeling energy, and Flash has done nothing but be that energy ever since Lex did this to him. So that combined with the kryptonite Green Lantern ring kind of does some flashy, and they end up just appearing around Constantine back in the real world, and he's like, I knew you'd figure out how to get out of there, blah 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 blah. But the weird thing is, though, is we get a full page spread of the League standing there, and Constantine says something to the effect of or the narration at the end at least says, and so it was the League for Justice returned to the world they had saved, and before long would again, but that's just that's a story for another time, so implying there might be a sequel to that, which is fine. But
yes,
I stopped and thought about it and went, but I mean, at least in this issue, they didn't save jack shit. What are you talking about?
No. they got stranded and double crossed.
Yeah.
Like, that's not saving the day.
And then came back. And yeah, I mean, I guess technically they helped. I mean, going in there allowed Martian Manhunter to take the medallions so that Darkseid can never come out of the Phantom Zone, at least for now. Like so because that was the worry, that Lex would unleash Darkseid into the world and all hell would break loose. So we've stopped that, but it's not really the League that did that. They kind of were a bunch of chumps.
Right. Constantine did that.
Yes.
Constantine and Catwoman because that's the other plot is Catwoman sneaks into Wayne Manor and we get the Gaslight version of Alfred, who's just talking too much, which I really like. She hits him with the sleep dust.
The Gaslight version of Alfred's just a funny sentence because it makes it sound like he's gaslighting people left and right.
I mean, theoretically he is, because he's constantly covering for Bruce, right?
True.
You know? So, but yeah, it's this version of Alfred, and he gets the sleep dust from Selena, and Selena goes in there and gets this helm. Kind of looks like Magneto's helmet.
It's Zod's helmet.
And it's Zod's helmet, and, you know, that's what leads her to help with the double cross with Constantine. So it's like, well, no, Constantine and Selena save the day. You know, these underhanded characters, and it kind of just comes, it's almost like, it's very Deus Ex Machina, right? Where, you know, they just, out of nowhere, they save the day. And I'm really enjoying the series. So if we're getting a series out of this and we're going to get these threads later, I guess
it just
fine.
It felt so abrupt at the end to me, like, because it was okay. They all appear back around Constantine and they're asking questions, and that, okay, that's fine. But the very next page is the full page spread, which is the last page. It just it goes straight to a full page spread, and this is the end for now. And I'm like, but we were just getting into the meat of like what they'd done and how they pulled it off and whatnot. I don't know. It felt so abrupt to me, which again was kind of a complaint at the end of the first half. Is that there's so many good ideas and good moments and world building, and just like how it's connecting this alternate history of everything together, but in both arcs now, and it's really been one big arc split in two. But in the end of both halves of this, it's felt really abrupt and rushed with how it's wrapped things up. So where it feels like it needed an extra couple of issues in both cases, where this shouldn't have been a 12-issue thing. This should have been like a 16-issue thing, maybe an 18-issue thing overall or something. Yeah.
Let it breathe a bit, because at the end, Constantine says, I told you I was going to save the world and you lot were going to help. Why does no one ever listen? Okay, well, how did they help? Like, you were going to strand them there. It's not like Constantine went back and went, all right, coast is clear. You know, come on out. You know, we got bigger things to do. They show up here and completely surprise him. You know, so, and it's very messy. And when I turned the page, I expected like this full explanation from Constantine. Like, hey, there are bigger things at play than just Darkseid. You know, we got to be ready for them. We can't allow this to happen again. And no, it's just this really cool page, which looks great, of this steampunk Justice League standing there. And it's like, oh, well, that's a story for another time. It's like, well, tell me it. Give me the broad strokes now.
Yeah, it's very mixed. And, you know, there's the whole bit as well with Superman's feeling guilty that, oh, wait, is my coming here and with the technology that was with my ship, is that started all this? Am I to blame for everything bad that's happened? And then, like, they have a bit of a debate where, like, some of them are saying, yeah, but like the only reason why Cyborg's alive is because of technology that came from your stuff, and same with Flash, and same with the ring working again and all that. And then Talia is like, no, you're trying to justify it, and that's what people always do. They always say that we're going to do good things with the power, but it always corrupts. And it's like, okay, there's some interesting ideas here about like, you know, what's right and wrong and like and whatnot, but it kind of just becomes about, you know, going to find Lex and, you know, and much like we said, it's cool that Darkseid's was in the Phantom Zone, but we kind of predicted that introducing that right before one issue was left meant it wasn't going to be that much of a big thing. And while the visual of them realizing they're standing in his hand the entire time is a cool ass like moment, it does also mean that he's pretty underdeveloped as far as a threat goes here.
I do like the omnipresence of Darkseid though. Like, it's just always this threat that's always going to be there and stuff. So I do like that. And there was another thing I was going to say, and it just went away. Oh, the New Gods stuff too. I do like seeing the New Gods as we know them, right? It's very much Barda and Orion and all of them in that form in this universe. You know, just seeing the blip of them and how much they stand out different than the steampunk Justice League. I thought that was a really cool page.
Yeah.
You know,
well, I mean, technically, there shouldn't be different New Gods, right? Because like there's only one dark side for all the universes, so should there only be one set of New Gods for all the universes?
Yeah, but then if those New Gods failed, then you know what I mean. That means they completely failed everywhere.
I don't know.
Yeah, because that was the line for the longest time. I don't know if that's necessarily true anymore with Darkseid dead and the Absolute, right? But it seems like the New Gods failed and they trapped Darkseid, because you got to think then if Darkseid's trapped in the Phantom Zone, he's not on Apocalypse. So, but yeah, it just definitely abrupt and a bit disappointing. But there's stuff I did enjoy, like that New Gods appearance was pretty cool. And then Lex with the madness, like the Lovecraftian kind of thing.
Honestly,
where I thought he was completely lost his mind.
Yeah, I thought it was turning into the Joker for a second, the way he was laughing.
A little bit.
Yeah, I thought it was, we're doing a weird thing here where he turns. And I mean, I know that Joker was in the original Gotham by Gaslight, so we've already got a Joker or had a Joker, but you know, this is a little bit different. But anyway, yeah, very mixed feelings, kind of rushed at the end. It's kind of frustrating that this book throughout the entire thing has been full of good ideas and world building, but the storytelling, once it's gotten like near the end of anything, has felt very, very sloppy. And like all the ideas have kept us kind of engaged, but it's not been without its pitfalls. And I think this ending is one of the bigger ones, sadly, which leaves a little bit of a bad taste in the mouth. But that's what it is. Would I be down to try another batch of them? Probably. Unless I mean, that said though, if there's so many new books launching, maybe I'll feel less inclined to, if there's like a big slate of them. But regardless, what are you rating Gotham by Gaslight, A League for Justice?
I'm gonna give this a straight 7.
7. 6.5 for me, I think. 6.5. So yeah, all right. So one of the things we do now for patrons and YouTube members, we have a vote each month, a patron's pick, and the winner for this month was DCKO Knightfight issue 2. Sorry, Nightfall's like the classic thing with night in it from DC.
Yes,
so just
the good thing.
Yeah. So this is Knightfight issue 2. We were very negative on issue 1, but the patrons voted and said we should keep reading it, for, at least for this month. Issue 3 will be on the next vote, because we're not doing the next one voluntarily either, just for the record.
No, this is for the sickos. You sickos that voted for this, I hope you're proud of yourself.
We could be reading an issue of Cassandra Cain Batgirl right now, and instead we're talking about this dumb shit.
And you know, so I didn't get to read it last week because Pete forgot to mention we were going to do it. Pete read it and he had kind of hinted, oh, it's bad. And so I went in going like, okay, is it bad? And it was even worse than I thought.
I think what gets me more than that, because I did give it a quick skim just to refresh my memory, because I'd forgotten a lot of it. Because I remembered a very specific complaint I had was that Batman was, I don't know if contradicting himself was necessarily the right thing, but I was finding it very frustrating in the first half of this issue when he's basically just fighting Dick, right, in this alternate universe that they've put him in. Is that at one point he flat out says that this isn't really Dick racing, this is not really my Gotham, and I know that. And he makes that point. But then, like, a page later, he's saying, I've come to a world where not only has Dick become Batman, he's a better Batman. And I'm like, but you just said that this isn't really Dick. You know it's not really Dick, so why does that have any meaning to you? Why does that matter? And that's kind of the ultimate point here, is that nothing matters, because just like the fighting, the fight round issues, everything here is just complete made up nonsense. And the second he the book decides to just whisk him away to the second universe, where it's the Jason and Todd universe that he goes to, none of it matters. Like, there's a lot of debating about, like, you know, my Robins are better than your Robins and whatever else, but it's mostly just fighting. It's just fluff, and that's before we even get to what happens in the Jason Todd half of the book, which we'll do separately.
Yeah, even if you're excited to watch like Batman fight different versions of Batman. None of this is interesting. Like, I've read better versions of this and other things. Like, even like, all right, so when they did the what were they called? The Dark Knights of Steel, right? No, that was the Tom Taylor book. When they did all the evil versions of the evil Batman, right? For the Justice League.
From around Metal, when it was like Batman Who Laughs was the main one, but there was the Aqua Batman one, and there was the Flash Batman one, and all that.
I understood how trauma had made those Batman had basically, we had the Aquaman version of Batman, was how the trauma shaped them and how they were different and why it was justified. So I understood all that. Those books I didn't necessarily enjoy, but I understood the point of it. I really don't know what the point of this is, besides to have Bruce fight his Robins as Batman.
It's frustrating to me because, like I said, he goes through this thing of like, you're not really Dick, and I'm like, yeah, he's not, and I already felt that way, so it feels pointless. There's no drama here because it's not really Dick, and it's like, okay. So it's made even worse when he's just whisked away. Like all we get is like a flash of lightning and like a couple of things, and it turns into, it's like a black and white world with just red is the only color, and that's like red. And to be fair, the art in this Red Hood half is very nice. Cool. Yes, it's very nice art, right? The coloring on this back half is very good. Dan
Mora good, sky blue. We get it.
That said, for as good as Dan Mora is, I do think the first half, the fight with Dick is too messy. There's too much going on.
It's too messy because there's too much going on. Although that said, I do like the panel that is them fighting with all of the different parts of the fight going around, because it feels like a chaotic, kind of like a kung fu movie fight, where there's just a lot going on. The rest of it, though, is just there's too much going on and stuff. But yeah, we get to the Jason Todd stuff, and at least it looks nice.
It looks nice, but here's the premise of this. So Batman wakes up and he's in a straitjacket, and Red Batman, whatever you want to call him, he's like, oh yes, these delusions.
That's Daredevil, sir.
Very good. But, you know what I mean, though? He's just in the red hood outfit with bat ears, but he's like,
yes,
right. What delusion is it today, Bruce? Eh? Do you think you've got a big axe? And I'm like, oh, that was a reference to the Absolute Universe. Funny. Do you think you're this? Do you think you're that? And it's referencing a couple of old things, and it's like, okay. And then he gets in his face, and he's like, this is all delusions. You're crazy. You're nuts. And then he calls him Clayface. And the premise of this universe is that apparently here, Clayface killed Batman and like everyone in the Bat family except Jason Todd. And he's went so delusional, he's stuck in Batman form and he really believes he's Batman. And Jason Todd's like, Clayface, you're Clayface. You think you're Batman, but you're actually Clayface. And, Batman obviously fights back and we get a chase sequence and all the rest of it. And the big ending to this, outside of revealing that the entire city's bottled in a big red dome because the entire city's now Arkham, the big ending to this is that Batman just turns around and says, wait, if you want me to be Clayface here, then you know what? I'll play into that. Fine, I'm Clayface. In the last page, he literally just turns into Clayface and starts fighting Jason as Clayface. And I'm like, what the hell?
This is dumb.
Is happening here? Like, not only can we be in any world, in any context, now just because like he's just Clayface, like literally just Clayface, and he can I just like, this is just fluff. It's nothing. None of this means a goddamn thing.
Well, and it gets a little too cute by half by when Bruce breaks out, he runs up they're in Arkham, he runs out and finds out the entire city has been put into a red dome because of a Joker gas attack. And he keeps the gas in there, but at the cost, Jason has to be in here by himself, but the dome looks like the Red Hood dome that Joker wore when he was the Red Hood. And I'm just like, I can't, this is not good.
I just, everything about this is like, I mean, normally when you do like a weird, like dreamlike alternate universe where nothing really matters from a plot perspective because it's all not real, it's not the going to be the continuing thing, at the very least they'll be like, oh, there's some kind of lesson the main character's learning by being here. And I'm like, I don't know what you learned from that first story with Dick, and I have no idea what he's going to learn here, where literally the premise of this universe is that he's not actually Batman, he's Clayface thinking he's Batman. I guess what you could say that's trying to do is it's poking at this idea of imposter syndrome and him feeling like he's not really what like he thinks he's Batman, but he's really just some scared child Bruce Wayne that made this persona or something. Maybe you could say it's getting into that kind of thing. But that's the thing, though. We all know that this is going to switch to Tim Drake world halfway through the next issue, and at that point, like, how much pathos are we going to get from this?
I'm worried we're going to redo Identity Crisis in the next one. And we have to see, Tim, you became my dad after my dad died type stuff. And I'm like, I don't want to read that. I'm good. I just made the ultimate mistake. I don't trust these sickos. Oh, what do I do?
Better hope some of the other options in the vote are compelling. I don't know what's going to be out yet.
Let's make them good.
Yeah.
Let's make them good. But yeah, it wasn't like, when Pete said it was bad, I was kind of like, well, he didn't enjoy the first one. It can't possibly be that bad. And then I read it and I was like, why is Batman Clayface? Like, what did I miss? Like, I went back and read that page 2 times. And it's just exactly what it says. Well, if the heart wants me to believe I'm Clayface, then I'm Clayface. And I'm like, oh, it's the worst thing you could have given Williamson.
So there's no rules.
Is the ability to do whatever he wants.
Yeah, all of it's meaningless because not only can we just be anywhere and have any context that we just want to in the moment, and it has no purpose or meaning because there's no build up to it, there's no truth to it. We can also just have characters literally be other characters, and it's like, okay, well, I don't know. It's just a bunch of like, hey, what crazy shit do you want to draw, Dan? Well, I've got this idea. All right, fine, I'll put that in the script. I don't know what the thought process was for this. The entire concept of this, like, that just to give Batman a miniseries during the event feels forced in and of itself, but what's actually happening in each of these worlds that he goes into is just really weird. Like, I cannot fathom what the final point of this little miniseries is going to be, but I doubt I'll like it.
Yeah, it's rough times. That said, I did like the red bat hood. Kind of looks cool. I will give him that much credit. But yeah, and outside the one page with the Dick version of Batman fighting Bruce, it's kind of, there's just a lot going on, a little bit too much, so yeah, rough times, man. Could have read a Cassandra Cain issue.
I do like the art in the last half. The Red Hood half does have good art, but that's the extent is what I'm giving it. So, Matt, what are you giving Knightfight issue 2?
Oh, this is a 3.5.
Oh ho ho. I'll go with a 4 out of 10. But yes, I kind of hated this, and please vote for something else next month, guys. Please. That'd be lovely. All right. Speaking of Patreon, every month at patreon.com/MailFuzzTV, you can make me read a book of your choosing at one of the higher tiers. And I'm back to Gideon Falls this week. We're at the December Patreon issues now, and the last issue was very trippy, very, very, very trippy. This issue kind of reins things back in, while still, of course, hinting at some of the bigger stuff that's coming. We start off with like a flashback that's actually the first panel is like upside down, and even the text is upside down, so you have to kind of like skew your ears or your eyes to see it. But there's a voice talking to young. It's this young Norton, right? Because in the last issue it talked about how he was found in this place in the city, and this is where he was found, and he's in just like nothing but red scratchy surroundings. And this voice is telling him to, come back to me, child, become my doorway. And then, he's a kid, he's in this part of the city on his own, and this woman finds him and says, who are you? Where are your parents? And he's like, oh, I'm in Gideon Falls, or I live in Gideon Falls. And she's like, of course you are, this is Gideon Falls. So, because that was the big reveal last time, the city is actually also Gideon Falls. And she's like, hey, what street do you live on? And he's like, streets? There's no street. I live on a farm. So I think the reveal here, quite, I think easy to see, is that this Norton is actually the missing brother, the sheriff's missing brother from her background, which would suggest that he has time traveled effectively when he's went through the barn, perhaps. It's tough to say, or maybe he's in an alternate world. Maybe they're not in the same plane of existence. Who knows? But regardless, he is the character Norton in this other type. Now, having said that, though, when the woman asks his name, he says, Norton, I think my name is Norton Sinclair. That is not the brother's name. So maybe I'm wrong in my assumption, or maybe this name comes from somewhere else relative to the backstory of the barn and the mythology of the barn. I don't know. But him saying he lives in a farm, so he's clearly from the rural version of Gideon Falls, instantly made me think he's the missing brother. But, I mean, I could be wrong. Maybe it's just another kid that went missing from that same version of the town. But that would be my guess. Again, the name's the one thing that... But again, even he doesn't sound sure when he says that, even though he gives a full name. So, yeah, and there's an interesting effect at the bottom of that page as well, where it's like the bottom of the page is ripped, and there's those red and black scratches. It almost feels like a very meta thing of, like, there's, like, the barns, like, over the top of it. But in present day, Dr. Zoo is saying, Norton, what we're going to do, you're saying we have to build the barn? That's crazy, blah, 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 blah. And he's like, hey, but you're going to help me, right? Like, I've got an extra pair of gloves here. Let's take the pieces back to my place. And she's like, you know what? Yeah, let's get out of here. This place creeps me out. So that's kind of where we leave it off with them early on in the issue. Father Fred goes back to the sheriff just to check up on her and see that she's okay. And she's, pretty freaked out. She does talk about, what she remembers, but they both agree that they're both forgetting what it was like to be in the barn, right? They're like, those details are starting to fade, and they can tell they're going to completely go away. Like, she remembers the bus driver guy, Reddy or Red, whatever his name is, but Joe Reddy, that was his name. Like, she remembers him attacking her, but like a lot of the details are fuzzy. But she's convinced that everything's connected and that her brother is somewhere to be found. But she does bring up that Father Fred hasn't stayed at the same parish for longer than a few weeks in like a decade. So he always keeps moving on. Although he does say that he expects that he's going to be sticking around here now. Maybe he's got some sense of purpose now that this is all going down. But he says goodbye. And she goes back into her place and picks up the teddy bear that was her brother's. And we get a flashback for her. So again, another thing connecting, I think, this idea that maybe Norton is her brother to some extent, is that we also get a flashback of her and her childhood with her brother. Now, I suppose I could argue here, does the kid in this flashback next to her on the bus look anything like young Norton? I suppose technically his hair's kind of different, so maybe I'm barking up the wrong tree, but still, that's where my mind went. But young Norton is holding I shouldn't say Norton, maybe it's not Norton, right? Her brother, Daniel, is holding his teddy bear in the bus, so these two kids behind him are making fun of him, saying he's a baby. So the sheriff, Clara, like turns round and punches the kid in the face. It's actually a really fun little panel. And the bus driver yells at her and tells her to bring her brother up and sit near them. But the big reveal here is that it's the same bus driver. It's this Reddy character who we've been seeing, the one that, kidnapped her as an adult last issue, and killed someone. It's him. And I love, again, the use of red here, where there's like no red on like this page other than the panel that shows his face. The background of the panel is completely just red, just flat red. So it really pops, and it really sells this idea of him being this danger. And then it cuts back to her in present day as she's thinking about this, and she's realizing, oh, that guy that just kidnapped me was there on that bus. Like, did he have something to do with my brother disappearing? And she calls her dad, the doctor, and sort of says, hey, was this, I think I know what happened to Daniel. It was Joe Reddy, the bus driver. I think he took him. And maybe there's truth to that. That might be true, but still related to the barn, of course, because clearly he is related to the barn in some effect. At the very least, he's become a puppet of whatever entity's in the barn. And I think that's the concern for Norton, actually, is Norton's got this belief that he has to build the barn, but in this issue, we've got the entity in the barn saying, be my doorway. That kind of sounds like he's building the barn for this thing to come out into the world, right? And I don't think Norton wants that to happen necessarily, but he has this drive to do it. It's almost like being taken by a child in the barn and spat back out with like no memory, really. is kind of like, I don't know, this thing's way of grooming him so that he'll be obsessed with the idea of building the barn for him. So yeah, he's with Dr. Zoo, and he's like, I have so many small pieces, but how do I possibly put them together? It's too hard. And Dr. Zoo touches his hand and says, "Let me help." And there's a really kind of intimate panel of her looking like right at the audience, like the reader. A close up of her face that's kind of split up over 3 panels. But you know how normally when they do that, they have like 3 panels where one image is split across the 3 of them. Normally the gutters are still there in between them. They're not in this case. It's almost like the black borders of each panel are just over the top of an image that's taken up the entire like width of the page. It's an interesting look, actually. Some techniques being made here. So someone knocks on the door though. And notably, the text that says "knock knock" is red, because again, red's always really important in this book. And he freaks out, but she's like, "It's probably okay. Let me go check who it is." But someone kicks the door in, and it's like a doctor and 2 orderlies who are here to take Norton back to the hospital. And he's like, "Hey, we've said he accosted you in the office recently, did he not?" And she's like, "Oh, that was a misunderstanding. I'm his doctor. You don't need to take him." But this guy, who's very creepy and has like these little circular sunglasses, is like, "No, it's all right. We've got everything under control. We know what we're doing." And they basically force him away. And as they grab him, there's this 2-page layout where there's kind of like, it's split up almost like a clock, like the top half of a clock. But there's this just red in the bottom half, and it just, I don't know, it looks really like, you really get the sense of Norton starting to freak out, like he's getting overwhelmed, is what it does. But yeah, he's taken by these men and thrown into a corner. But notably, there's these little panels in the middle of the page of this doctor coming up to the door of this cell they've put him in, this room, and he says, "Soon we will be together again, and you will be what you were born to be. Soon you will become my doorway." But that last panel, it's become a red panel where he's got like a demonic smelling face like we've seen before in the panel, and in the surroundings of that little panel are all black and scratchy. So it's this idea that this doctor is actually either representing or is the Thing from the barn. And it's interesting though, because that kind of contradicts with the idea that the Thing wants him to build the barn, because it came and stopped him. If that's what it wanted him to do, then why would it interrupt and take him back again? So I don't know what their plan is, but I am intrigued with the idea that he's confronted with this evil that he's maybe like forgotten about, and is going to have to confront that. And I'm also interested in the idea of what Dr. Zoo does, having seen him basically be taken by force, under the guise of it being like an official medical thing, but really it's not. Like, I wonder, like, her trying to get to him and help him, if that's going to be a big thing or whatever. But yeah, I can't help. Now, admittedly, having looked again as I was talking about it, the little glimpses we get of Daniel, the brother of the sheriff, in her flashback as kids, does not match the kid at the start who's young Norton, right? Young Norton has like jet black hair. This other kid has like brown hair. But I don't think it's out of the realm of the possibility that this is actually her brother who's been transported or maybe like held like in stasis in the barn for however many decades or something, or whatever the case may be. But it was a pretty hype ending though. That this final page of this entity looking through like the slider in the door, smelling like a demon, was a great panel. Because normally we end on like a big splash page or something, right? There's a big moment. Whereas this was not. This was a series of horizontal panels, which were kind of like sideways. Like it was like he was being pushed down the panels until the bottom one, which was like more of a POV shot. But it had a great sense of pacing to it, because you felt the Doctor walking towards you before his face turned into this demonic entity. So super good, creepy horror movie stuff. Art's gorgeous as per usual. I really can't fault any of it. And like I said, it feels like it's getting experimental with just not even like overly flashy things, just simple little things like those boxes being drawn on top of the image. It's not like something that's super in your face. It's just a subtle little detail where it's a little bit off kilter, and it makes you think about the weirdness of it. I think in that moment, like, it's this idea that she is getting closer to him, so she's now starting to, like, from his point of view, go out with her panels, like out with the boundaries that she's supposed to be in, and be more kind of just there for him. And that's kind of like, I think it's meant to show that she's getting more intimate. And it's not necessarily that she's attracted to him. I don't know if it's necessarily a romantic thing, but just this idea that she's not just the doctor who doesn't believe him anymore. It feels like no, I am here for you. I'm not going to let you do this alone. And she feels closer. And then that's interrupted with a knock at the door. So maybe the idea is that the entity needs to keep him like alone and separate, because like him having allies is something it doesn't want. I don't know. I'm just spitballing, but I'm super into it. So that's issue 7 of Gideon Falls. Yeah, I think it's a 9. I'm trying to argue with myself to go lower, but I don't think there's any reason to. Art's gorgeous, super compelling, teases for where the story's going, and more pieces of the puzzle to make me think. So, no, good stuff. Good stuff. So that'll take us out to the final part of the show, where we pick our favourite stuff of the week, favourite panel/moment, favourite covers, favourite art, and of course, top 5 books. So Matt, what is your panel/moment of the week?
All right, so I liked some of the stuff from Action Comics, but I don't know if it was strong enough to make for the moment of the week. So it's going to come down to either Batman and Robin, and we have the reveal of Wesker talking to himself. I thought that was really well done.
Yeah, I think that reveal is the only thing that competes maybe with some moments in Absolute Batman this week.
Yep. And then with Absolute Batman, there's so many. I really love the right before Joker changes into that big demonic beast, where he's like, ready or not, here I come. And the guy starts running down on the beach, because it's straight out of a horror movie, right? Like, it's that the change with him is up there, the history segment. And in fact, you know what? I'm going to make it from Absolute Batman, because it's as good as the Batman and Robin one was. But it's going to be that image of Jack Grimm looking at the bomb detonation, and there's just this unhuman smile on his face that is, that's foreshadowing what's to come with the Joker later in the issue.
Honestly, that's exactly what I was going to pick. It was him smiling at the nuclear bomb. I think that was just the most unsettling part of the whole thing, is this idea of him finding joy and laughter in that when he doesn't laugh at anything else. I think it's just a really cool idea and creepy. So he feels more like a villain in Twin Peaks right now, this Joker, versus a Joker in a Batman story, and that's just kind of cool. So very good. For cover this week, I will say there is a nice Joelle Jones variant, funnily enough, for her tie-in issue. There is a pretty interesting Ashley Wood variant for Batman and Robin. It's got that sort of scratchiness to it, which is really moody. However, my pick this week is absolutely the Jock cover for Absolute Batman, which is just like the pure black background and then like demonic Joker coming out of the shadows dripping blood. It's perfect horror movie feel.
I don't want that image in my house. Like, thank you.
Yeah, so that's my pick. What do you got?
Right. You brought up the one good thing we could say about the Wonder Woman Lobo issue. That's that Joelle Jones variant. I also like there's a Gotham by Gaslight by Christian Ward that's got Batman and Green Lantern jumping off one of the bridges, and there's just like this dusty, Industrial Revolution-esque Gotham beneath them with the sky. Like it looks really good. And then Batman and Robin has a Torrin Clark variant. That plays with some light. It looks like they're breaking through a window. I just like the red of the Robin suit with the blue of the Batman suit. It looks really good. But yeah, man, Absolute Batman has some covers. And as creepy as that Jock one is, again, I don't want it in my house. There's a Sanford Green variant that's got Jack Grimm, right, sitting in a chair with that demonic thing of Joker behind him, almost like creating like this like almost like, it's not a hug, but it's wrapped around him, and they're like forever entwined. So that one's gonna be mine.
All right, cool. What is your art of the week?
I mean, it's Jock, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking to see what Batman and Robin's art was solid.
Patridge.
Patridge is good. No faults there.
Good.
But it's Jock.
Yeah, it's Jock. I mean, that's a clean sweep, right? Like,
yeah. I can't really say anything else. All right, top 5 books, Matt. Go.
All right. One's gonna be Absolute Batman. 2 is going to be Batman and Robin. 3 is Action Comics. 4 is Gotham by Gaslight, and 5 is Green Lantern Corps. Did I get those right? I feel like I'm forgetting something. I don't think I am.
No, I don't think so. So my number 1 is Absolute Batman. Yeah, my number 1 is Absolute Batman. My number 2 is Batman and Robin. 3 is Action Comics. 4, Green Lantern Corps. 5, yeah, Gotham by Gaslight, I guess. Yeah, honestly, yeah, there was a pretty big drop off after like the 3 best books this week, relatively. So, yeah, not the best week from DC, but hey, you know, they come and go. We have to take the ups and the downs. But we had a couple of standouts though, so that's all right. Very most of the good stuff was Batman related this week, but that's fine. Sometimes it goes that way.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll tell you what's coming next week from DC Comics right now. So we have Absolute Flash issue 10, Nightwing 133, World's Finest 46, Titans issue 30, Wonder Woman 28, DCKO Harley Quinn versus Zatanna. Do I want to read that? I don't think I do. We have Superman The Kryptonite Spectrum issue 5, Superman Unlimited issue 8, Catwoman 82, The Batman Second Night issue 2 wraps us up, and then some facsimiles and whatnot as per usual. So, you know what? I'm just going to say it. I'm not reading that Harley Quinn Zatanna book because we got both Kryptonite Spectrum and issue 2 of the Batman. I want to read those more. That's me. That'll be my choice.
Okay, so it's got Leah Williams writing with Mirka and Andolfo on art. I don't know. I don't know if the people deserve me to read it after making us read Knightfight. So
yeah, but even Leah Williams' name doesn't excite me. Never mind the fact that it's
no,
Harley Quinn
but I like Leah Williams quite a bit. I don't know. I'll commit to it. I'll do it.
All right, you can do it. That's on you.
Yeah,
that's on you.
That's on me.
The good news is that I can't even put some of these Versus issues up for vote for next month because they're a 1 month thing.
Yeah,
they're not in January, so
they're not there.
Oh well.
Yeah.
No, they'll just make us read Knightfight issue 3 though. I know they will. The bastards that they are. But yes, that's what's coming next week from DC Comics. So let us know what you thought of this week's books in the comments, and of course you can support the show over at Patreon, patreon.com/MailFuzzTV, or via YouTube membership if you prefer to do it that way. But either way, you can do that and get a couple of little bonuses. We're doing monthly reviews of Batgirl Year 1 right now. You get access to the vote, which we've been complaining about all episode, and then a little bit early access to the show. So thank you very much for joining us. We do appreciate it. Keep reading DC Comics, and remember to never get lost in the Speed Force.